Chapter 1426. When Immortal Yuding saw Yi Chen stop, he immediately nodded with satisfaction. Immortal Yuding landed beside him like an immortal. Then he stroked his beard and said in a reserved manner, "Young man, I am Immortal Yuding, one of the 12 golden immortals under the command of Heavenly Lord Yuanshi. I see that you are handsome and talented, so I plan to accept you as my disciple. Why don't you kneel down and acknowledge me as your master?" Immortal Yuding knew that these dissimulated men were very willing to acknowledge them as their masters. As long as he revealed a little, these dissimulated men would cry and shout to acknowledge him as their master. In his opinion, now that he took the initiative to admit Yi Chen as his master, Yi Chen would be surprised and at a loss. Then he would kneel down and acknowledge him as his master without hesitation. But what happened next was completely different. Yi Chen looked at Immortal Yuding as if he were looking at an idiot, and then he turned around and left without hesitation. Even if Heavenly Lord Yuanshi personally accepted Yi Chen as his disciple, he might not agree, let alone Immortal Yuding. Moreover, Immortal Yuding was just a golden immortal. He wanted to accept a Daluo Jinxian as his disciple. He didn't know what was wrong with Immortal Yuding. Then Yi Chen's figure flashed and disappeared directly, leaving Immortal Yuding in a trance. Just now, Immortal Yuding felt the fleeting breath of horror on Yi Chen. Immortal Yuding suddenly understood that the other party was a Daluo Jinxian. Immortal Yuding's face turned red in an instant. Fortunately, no one here saw it. Otherwise, it would be very embarrassing. At the same time, he was a little angry. Why didn't the information he received accurately explain Yi Chen's cultivation? That was why he made a big joke. He waved his sleeve angrily, then turned and left. He went in the opposite direction from Yi Chen, so as not to be embarrassed if he met him again. He had to find a way to tell Heavenly Lord Yuanshi about Yi Chen's situation. Perhaps no one was qualified to accept Yi Chen as a disciple except for the 3 pure ones. At this time, Yi Chen had returned to the Samsara dynasty and held an urgent court meeting. This time, the Samsara dynasty had made it clear that they would not participate in the war between the Dragon tribe, the Phoenix tribe, and the Kylan tribe. However, the untainted world was so large that the Samsara dynasty would inevitably be affected. Yi Chen ordered the entire Samsara dynasty to withdraw all the elite troops sent to Red Moon Ridge to Yunzhou in the northwest. In other words, they had to give up the Crimson Moon Ridge first. After the war between the 3 races was over, they could just snatch it back. Naturally, no one objected to Yi Chen's orders. The officials and generals all happily accepted the order. Yi Chen then said, "Even though the Reincarnation Dynasty won't be participating in the War of the 3 Races, this is a good opportunity for us to earn some experience points. Now, I order all the soldiers of the Samsara Dynasty to participate in the selection. I will select 1 million soldiers with the highest combat strength to lead them to participate in the War of the 3 Races." Zhang Fei, Guan Yu, Dian Wei, Li Yuanba, Su Chu, and the other generals were all excited when they heard this. How could they, as battle maniacs, give up this opportunity? After a fierce competition, the Samsara dynasty selected 1 million soldiers with the highest cultivation. They took off the Samsara dynasty's military uniform and changed into a set of unmarked equipment. Then, they set off with Yi Chen. As for the defense of the Samsara dynasty, Yi Chen was not worried. He left 50,000 nether mantises to defend the Samsara dynasty. He also left 300 of the 900 giant nether mantises to guard the Samsara dynasty. With the secret protection of these nether mantises, the entire Yunzhou in the northwest would be impregnable. At this moment, a sudden clap of thunder sounded in the sky. The sound of thunder boomed across the entire world channel. System announcement. The large-scale plot quest to the Eldritch world, the War of the Dragon, Phoenix, and Kirin tribes, is about to begin. All players, please prepare for battle. Those who have chosen a side, please return to your own side. Those who have not chosen a side will be randomly assigned. In this large-scale storyline mission, there will be a leaderboard. Killing players or clansmen of the enemy camp will give you the corresponding points. After the storyline mission is over, players can use the points to exchange for various divine weapons and treasures. The system announcement played 3 times in a row. Yi-Chen squinted his eyes. This was the first large-scale plot quest since he ascended to the Eldritch World. After such a long time, there should be at least 10 billion players who had ascended to the Eldritch World. With so many players participating in the War of the Three Races, it was hard to say what would happen. All the players were rubbing their hands together in excitement. To be able to participate in such a large-scale plot quest, many of them would stand out. The War of the Dragon, Phoenix, and Kirin tribes was a huge meat grinder. Countless experts would fall, but countless heroes would rise. Everyone felt that they were the rising heroes. Due to Yi-Chen's relationship with the East Sea Dragon Palace, the system had already determined that he belonged to the Dragon Tribe. He led 1 million elite troops to the Dragon Tribe's base camp in Mount Buzhou. At this time, at the foot of the Dragon Tribe's base camp in Mount Buzhou, a sea of players had gathered. Yi-Chen immediately summoned the Lava Dragon King. At this time, the Lava Dragon King's body was more than 10,000 meters long. The Lava Dragon King, which had recovered its demonic god cultivation, was extremely domineering. Its entire body exuded a fierce and violent aura. When the ancestral Gregon of the Dragon Tribe saw that Yi-Chen's mount was actually a Lava Dragon King, he was very pleased. Obviously, this Lava Dragon King did not belong to the Eldritch World. But so what? Moreover, Yi-Chen also brought 1 million elite troops of the human tribe. This made the ancestral Gregon very happy. The ancestral Gregon purposely allowed Yi-Chen to fly into the sky and stand side by side with the ancient Dragon Tribe. This was equivalent to acknowledging Yi-Chen's status. Meanwhile, as the ancestral Gregon soared into the sky and descended to the foot of Buzhou Mountain, every player noticed Yi-Chen. Immediately, they began discussing among themselves. Quick, look! There's actually a player beside the ancestral Gregon. It's the guy riding the fire dragon. Who is he? Are you new here? You don't even know Great God Yi-Chen. Oh my god, that's Great God Yi-Chen? His mount was simply too flashy. He was actually riding a fire dragon. This lava dragon is really terrifying. Who can defeat it? The ancestral Gregon stood up and said some words to boost the morale. He also promised that the more players killed from the Dragon Tribe, the greater the rewards would be. Then, the ancestral Gregon announced that all the troops of the Dragon Tribe were to set off. Yi-Chen took the lead and rode on the Lava Dragon King. Chapter 1427. Behind him, 1 million elite troops followed closely under the leadership of the super generals. When they came to an endless barren plain, Yi-Chen met the vanguard of the Phoenix tribe. The vanguard of the Phoenix tribe was led by phoenixes. Most of them were demons from the Eagle tribe, Peacock tribe, and Crane tribe. When enemies met, their eyes blazed with hatred. In an instant, the Phoenix tribe and Yi-Chen clashed viciously. Yi-Chen was the fastest. He rode the Lava Dragon King and rammed into the vanguard. The Lava Dragon King's eyes glowed fiercely. It opened its mouth and spat out a huge fire pillar that was tens of thousands of meters long. Instantly, the vanguard of the Phoenix tribe was set ablaze. Countless Phoenix tribe warriors were burned into charcoal. They screamed and fell from the sky. Yi-Chen also took to the skies. The Rui Jingu Bang in his hand continued to kill the bosses in the enemy camp. Yi-Chen's eyes of fire and gold weren't for nothing. As long as the leaders of the Phoenix tribe were targeted by Yi-Chen, they couldn't escape death. The Rui Jingu Bang had already claimed the lives of hundreds of demon commanders. After the leaders of the Phoenix tribe vanguard were killed by Yi-Chen, the vanguard became a little chaotic. At this time, the elite troops of the Reincarnation Dynasty charged forward. 1 million elite troops formed the famous vermilion bird killing formation. Instantly, a huge vermilion bird formed in the sky above the vanguard. After letting out a shrill cry, it pounced into the vanguard of the Phoenix tribe. The vanguard of the Phoenix tribe vanguard was stunned. What the hell was that? Why hadn't they seen it before? In an instant, the vermilion bird killing formation formed by the killing intent of 1 million elite troops slaughtered the vanguard of the Phoenix tribe vanguard. Yi-Chen, on the other hand, was observing the entire scene with his fiery golden eyes. His enormous divine sense had already enveloped the entire Reincarnation Dynasty's elite troops. Once they encountered an expert from the Phoenix clan that they couldn't deal with, Yi Chen's Rui Jingu Bang followed like a shadow. It pounced over and finished off the Phoenix tribe's expert. Yi Chen's speed was simply too fast. The Rui Jingu Bang in his hand moved like lightning. The rod spun back and forth in his hand. At this moment, the Rui Jingu Bang had already been expanded to over 100 meters long by Yi Chen. It was as thick as the mouth of a bull. Like a venomous snake, it struck wherever he pointed in the air. In an instant, countless Phoenix tribe elites were killed by Yi Chen. The Lava Dragon King was even happier. It opened its bloody mouth and swallowed thousands of birds and beasts. Therefore, Yi Chen led his 1 million elite warriors and slaughtered the Phoenix Sky's vanguard army to their heart's content. The Rui Jingu Bang brought with it an earth-shattering gale. It was as though it had descended from the sky, like the scorching sun. It was like a reef in the sea. No matter how hard the Phoenix Sky's vanguard army tried, they could not do anything to it. Meanwhile, the 1 million elite warriors of the Reincarnation Dynasty fully displayed Yi Chen's excellent style of plucking feathers from geese. After they killed the birds, they did not waste any of the birds' corpses. They knew very well that they could be used for weapons. These were all good materials for forging divine weapons. For example, the feathers of those eagles could be used to make arrows. When the dragon race's army caught up, panting heavily, they found that Yi Chen had already cleaned up this place. The entire Phoenix race's vanguard was completely wiped out by him. This time, the Phoenix tribe's vanguard army had at least tens of millions of members. At the same time, another system announcement appeared in the World Channel. It basically said that Yi Chen had helped the dragon tribe to take down a city. He had completed the first clear quest and wiped out the Phoenix tribe's vanguard army. At this moment, on the leaderboard that only the players could see, Yi Chen deserved to be number 1. After seeing the system announcement, the players who chose the dragon tribe, the Phoenix tribe, or the Kirin tribe were all dumbfounded. In particular, the dragon tribe players complained, "Are we going to play this game? It's so sad to be in the same camp as Yi Chen. We haven't even seen the enemy's face, and he's already killed them all." Brothers from the opposing camp, if you regret it, you can join the Kirin tribe. Our players are the friendliest. We definitely won't steal your kill. I'll be damned if I believe you. That's why I betrayed the dragon tribe and joined the Kirin tribe. Not to mention the high price of betrayal. The fact that Yi Chen chose the dragon tribe means that the dragon tribe will be victorious in the end. Idiot, this is the first large-scale plot quest in the Eldritch world. In such a large-scale battle, individual strength is of little use. Yi Chen is nothing. The Kirin tribe only needs to send out a powerful person to kill him easily. The World Channel was in chaos. However, this did not stop Yi Chen from doing what he wanted to do next. When he realized that his subordinates had cleaned up the battlefield, he immediately set off without stopping. Speed was crucial in war. This time, Yi Chen's target was the Phoenix tribe's headquarters, the Undying Mountain. Anyway, the ancestral Phoenix was at its weakest now. If he took the opportunity to conquer the Undying Mountain, he might be able to reunite with the ancestral Phoenix. Behind him, 1 million Reincarnation Dynasty's elite troops followed closely. After they advanced for another several million kilometers, Yi Chen suddenly discovered a large army that covered the sky and covered the earth coming towards them. Most of the army was made up of players. They were the players who had joined the Phoenix tribe. In Yi Chen's eyes, there was no difference between players and natives. Since they had chosen the enemy's camp, they were naturally his enemies. However, these players were too weak. Yi Chen did not have the desire to attack. Then, he waved his hand, and the Lava Dragon King and 1 million elite warriors pounced on the players like hungry tigers. The Reincarnation Dynasty's most elite troops were several levels stronger than these players. This was like a tiger entering a flock of sheep. The Phoenix tribe's players were slaughtered and contributed contribution points to Yi Chen. These elite warriors of the Reincarnation Dynasty were natives and not players. Moreover, all their contribution points were transferred to Yi Chen's name. Even the Lava Dragon King was a part of Yi Chen's strength. The contribution points from killing the Lava Dragon King would also be credited to Yi Chen. Therefore, Yi Chen did not need to personally participate in the battle. He only needed to stand there with his arms crossed to earn countless contribution points. The contribution points behind his name were rolling so fast that it could not be seen clearly. Chapter 1428. The elite warriors of the Reincarnation Dynasty loved to kill these players. Even though these players' cultivation levels were not high, they were all extremely rich. After killing them, there was a chance that they would drop their equipment. The moment the Lava Dragon King made its move, it was immediately recognized by these players. Immediately, someone roared in exasperation, "Damn it, isn't the Yi Chen's fire dragon mount? Since it has appeared, Yi Chen must be close. Oh my god, Yi Chen is here. We are no match for him. Let's run. Why are you so scared? Go home and sleep. I'm ashamed to be associated with you. What are you afraid of? No matter how powerful Yi Chen is, he is just a player. We have so many powerful beings. We can just kill him." The words of this player resonated with the rest of the players. They regained some of their morale. They shouted and cheered for themselves. Then, they rushed towards Yi Chen. Yi Chen, on the other hand, did not panic. He first waved his hand, and countless black clouds immediately condensed in front of him. Then, heavy rain began to fall. The players of the Phoenix Tribe Alliance army were all drenched. When the cold wind blew, the players shivered. They only had 70% of their strength left. At this moment, the ferocious elite warriors of the Samsara dynasty had arrived. They did not show any mercy. Instead, they swung their swords mercilessly. The Samsara Legion slaughtered these players with high efficiency. These players fell one after another as if they were harvesting wheat. The 1,000,000 elite warriors were like a sharp knife that cut through the entire army. The players realized that it was not enough to be hot-blooded. The difference in strength was too great. It was a massacre. In the next moment, the players were defeated. They fled in all directions. They could not form an effective force. Yi Chen shook his head as he watched the fleeing players. This was the reason why he didn't want to hire these players. These players were only suited for battles that went smoothly. Once they encountered a setback, they would immediately crumble. Unlike the veterans of the Samsara dynasty, they were neither arrogant nor discouraged. Even if they were at the end of their rope, they would never give up as long as there was a glimmer of hope. Even if he only had a single breath left, he would tear off a piece of his enemy's flesh. Yi Chen watched as the players were slaughtered by the Samsara army's elite warriors. His eyes were calm and unperturbed. Whether it was players or natives of the Great Wilderness, as long as they cultivated in the Great Wilderness, they had to follow a certain principle. That was the law of the jungle in the primordial world. Only the fittest survived. Be it the players or the natives of the primeval world, the process of cultivation was essentially a process of continuous plundering. They were competing with the heavens, the earth, the treasures, and the weapons. Only by stepping on the corpses of their enemies would they be able to climb to the top. After half an hour, the entire team of Phoenix players was slaughtered. Yi Chen once again broadcasted in the World Channel. The speed at which he accumulated points was terrifying. Now, Yi Chen was ahead of the second player by a few million points. The most depressing thing was that after the players were killed, they realized that they could only participate in the large-scale faction mission once. In other words, once they were killed by the enemy faction, they would be sent back to their birthplace and could no longer participate. They could only be a bystander and wait for the end of this huge faction mission. When Yi Chen led his subordinates to destroy the defense team, more dragon players led the players who chose to join the dragon faction towards Mount Buzhou. Yi Chen shook his head. Since they had already rushed to the front, he did not want to get involved in this mess. There were too many monks and too little meat. It was meaningless. On the other hand, Yi Chen immediately turned around and rushed towards the Qilin race. After a series of battles, the 1,000,000 elite troops had been nurtured by battles. Every soldier had improved by different degrees. These generals were beaming with joy. They realized that as long as they followed Yi Chen, there would be no lack of battles to fight. Moreover, Every time he did it to his heart's content, it was incomparably delightful, and there was no hindrance at all. At this moment, in the palace of the Phoenix Race's undying mountain, an expert from the Eagle Race was kneeling on one knee. He reported to the Ancestor Phoenix, "Ancestor, our vanguard team and the trillions of allied troops have been wiped out. There is only one executioner. It is the inhuman Yi Chun who chose to join the dragon faction." When the Ancestor Phoenix heard Yi Chun's name, she immediately narrowed her eyes. Her ears turned red. No one knew what she was thinking. Then, she gritted her teeth and said angrily, "Do you mean to say that the millions of vanguard troops and the tens of millions of inhuman allied troops were all killed by Yi Chun alone? This subordinate is not sure. But according to those Inhumans, it was indeed done by Yi Chun alone. He is domineering and unstoppable. Moreover, he has an elite army of 1 million under him. This army is very fierce, uniform, and determined. They are much stronger than our allied troops, made up of tens of millions of players." On the way to the Qilin race, Yi Chun also encountered the Qilin race's allied troops. Without hesitation, Yi Chun rode the Lava Dragon King and rushed into the Qilin race's camp to kill crazily. The 1 million elite troops under him followed behind to finish off the battle. Yi Chun's eyes were cold as he rushed toward the Qilin race like lightning. Because in Yi Chun's memory, in his previous life, the Qilin race was the first to be wiped out. But later, after various speculations, the Qilin race was not wiped out by the Dragon race and the Phoenix race. Instead, during the war between the Dragon race and the Phoenix race, the Qilin race was taken advantage of by the Demon race. The Ancestor Qilin was seriously injured by the demon Ancestor Luo Ho. When he was on the verge of death, he was brought to the 33rd layer of heaven by his youngest son, the David's Deer. He was still not revived and turned into the Qilin Cliff in the 33rd layer of heaven. If Yi Chun rushed over at this time, he might be able to change the plot. Sure enough, when Yi Chun arrived at the Qilin race, the entire Qilin race was filled with war cries and endless darkness. Nether energy surrounded the Qilin race's territory. The experts of the Qilin race seemed to have been poisoned, their strength greatly reduced. And in the dark nether energy, a large number of demon race experts were brutally slaughtering the Qilin race's clansmen. Yi Chun ignored these ordinary Qilin race's clansmen. Instead, he rode the Lava Dragon King and rushed into the Qilin race's main camp. Chapter 1429. The Ancestor Qilin was struggling in a life-and-death battle. His opponent was a black-robed man shrouded in black robes. His body was shrouded in black fog as he casually left wound after wound on the Ancestor Qilin's body. As for the Ancestor Qilin, his body was bleeding profusely. It looked like he could not hold on any longer. The black-robed man was none other than fiend Ancestor Luo Ho. He had come to the Qilin race to subdue the Ancestor Qilin as his mount. However, the Ancestor Qilin was extremely proud. He would rather die in battle than submit. Fiend Ancestor Luo Ho said indifferently, "Ancestor Qilin, why are you so stubborn? Is the glory of your Qilin race to become my mount?" The Ancestor Qilin spat out a mouthful of blood as he said fiercely, "Dream on, you fiend. Our Qilin race only dies in battle, not becomes slaves." Fiend Ancestor Luo Ho clearly did not have a good temper. He said coldly, "Since you are so stubborn, there is no need for you to exist. Today, I will wipe out your Qilin race." At that moment, a tiny odd beast rushed in front of the Ancestor Qilin. The tiny body used all its strength to block its father as it roared angrily, "Father, leave quickly. I'll hold him back." Fiend Ancestor Luo Ho sneered, "You overestimate yourself." A black fireball appeared at Fiend Ancestor Luo Ho's fingertip. The black flames burned intensely as they emitted a scorching glow. Clearly, it contained extremely high energy. The Ancestor Qilin said anxiously, "Silly child, leave quickly. I'll hold him back. As long as you are alive, our Qilin race will not be wiped out. Leave quickly." Go to the 33rd firmament to find Heavenly Lord of Primordial beginning. The odd beast cried desperately as it shook its head firmly and said, I'm not leaving. If we leave together. I will never abandon you and flee alone. At that moment, fiend ancestor Luo-Ho attacked. With a flick of his finger, a terrifying black flame shot towards the ancestor Qilin and his son. At this critical juncture, Yi Chun descended from the sky while riding on the Lava Dragon King. Yi Chun let out a clear laugh. Coward, don't you dare hurt me. Take a blow from my staff. After finishing his words, the Rui Jingu Bang descended from the heavens with a strong gust of wind. It was like the scorching sun in the sky. With a loud explosion, the black fireball exploded on the spot, and a terrifying shockwave swept out in all directions. However, the ancestral Qilin and the four odd beasts were unharmed under Yi Chun's protection. Fiend ancestor Luo-Ho suddenly fixed his cold eyes on Yi Chun. Puzzled, he asked, Who are you? How dare you meddle in my business? Are you tired of living? That's not right. Why do I sense a very familiar scent on you? Yi Chun laughed and waved his hand. The Godslayer appeared in his left hand. Yi Chun sneered as he looked at fiend ancestor Luo-Ho and said, Do you find this weapon of mine very familiar? Fiend ancestor Luo-Ho stared at the Godslayer and said with a fiery gaze, That's right. Why do I feel a blood connection with this spear? What's going on? Of course, Yi Chun would not tell him that this was originally fiend ancestor Luo-Ho's weapon. It was just that Yi Chun had obtained it in advance. He laughed and said, Since you can't figure out, you can continue to think about it. After finishing his words, Yi Chun launched a storm of attacks at fiend ancestor Luo-Ho. He also wanted to test the strength of this fiend ancestor Luo-Ho, who could be compared with the three pure ones. Fiend ancestor Luo-Ho finally got serious. His body suddenly trembled, and an extremely terrifying aura was emitted from his body. The aura from his body even caused the surrounding void to tremble violently. The color of the air turned pure black. Yi Chun felt that the air around him was as unbearable as sticky magma. Fortunately, he had cultivated the chaotic sacred body. With a roar, he attacked with lightning speed. The Rui Jingu Bang in his right hand smashed over brazenly, while the Godslayer in his left hand pierced out like a venomous snake. Yi Chun's body flashed like a ghost, bringing with it a sharp aura. Strong winds howled as one green wind blade after another cut through the viscous air in the surroundings. Both sides had only exchanged a few dozen blows, but Yi Chun already felt that it was extremely strenuous. He had a general idea of the situation. It was no wonder that ancestral Qilin was beaten to such a state by him. Fiend ancestor Luo-Ho was indeed extraordinary. Following that, Yi Chun fainted with his spear and quickly retreated. He said to ancestral Qilin anxiously, Senior Qilin, I'm here to save you. Come with me quickly. Ancestral Qilin had seen the battle between Yi Chun and fiend ancestor Luo-Ho. Clearly, he was very grateful for Yi Chun's timely appearance. However, he still did not know who Yi Chun was, but at this moment, he could not be bothered to think too much. Ancestral Qilin immediately grabbed the four odd beasts and jumped onto Lava Dragon King's back. Lava Dragon King roared and turned its head to spit out a mouthful of white flames at fiend ancestor Luo-Ho. Just as fiend ancestor Luo-Ho roared, 60 huge nether manises appeared out of thin air and launched a fearless attack at him. In an instant, fiend ancestor Luo-Ho was delayed. Yi Chun took this opportunity to leave with Lava Dragon King. With fiend ancestor Luo-Ho's strength, Yi Chun did not expect him to be killed by the nether manises. However, Yi Chun only wanted to escape from this place. Almost in an instant, Yi Chun had escaped millions of miles away from the Qilin race's base. After realizing that he had escaped danger, ancestral Qilin's injuries worsened. He kept spitting out blood. The four odd beasts were so frightened that they screamed, Father, Father, what happened to you? Hold on. We are about to reach the 33rd heaven. Ancestral Qilin laughed bitterly and shook his head. Child, I'm afraid I can't make it. You must live well. Do not avenge me." Having said that, Ancestral Qilin looked at Yi Chun and asked seriously, "Who are you? Why have you appeared in the Qilin race's territory?" Yi Chun thought for a moment. Ancestral Qilin was born at the beginning of chaos, so he was naturally very wise. It was not easy to lie, so he might as well tell the truth. "Senior Qilin, I am the monarch of the reincarnation dynasty, Yi Chun. I heard from other sources that fiend ancestor Luo Ho wanted to secretly deal with the Qilin race. I traveled through the night to inform you, but I was still too late." Yi Chun's words were both true and false. Ancestral Qilin did not see any clues, so he believed him. He let out a sigh of relief and said, "So it is His Majesty. A monarch does not joke. I believe you. I see that His Majesty is still young and has a bright future. I have a presumptuous request, and I hope you can agree to it." Yi Chun was secretly excited, but on the surface he was very calm. He said, "Senior, please save your energy and do not speak. I will take you to the 33rd heaven. Hold on for a while. We will be there soon." Chapter 1430. Everyone could see that the Ancestral Qilin was at the end of its life. If Yi Chun wanted to, he could kill the Ancestral Qilin and get a great reward. But he didn't do that. He had a more important plan. The Qilin race had always been a symbol of auspiciousness, and the cliff of Qilin that the Ancestral Qilin turned into could bring endless merit. In his previous life, Yi Chun had seen the primeval Lord of Heaven's Mount with his own eyes. It was the little guy in front of him. So Yi Chun guessed that the Ancestral Qilin had died after reaching the primeval Lord of Heaven's palace. Before he died, he had entrusted the beast to the primeval Lord of Heaven. As a reward, he had turned into the cliff of Qilin to pray for the primeval Lord of Heaven's bloodline. Therefore, what Yi Chun needed to do now was to play the role of the primeval Lord of Heaven and save the Ancestral Qilin and his youngest son, the four odd beasts. Then the Ancestral Qilin weakly spat out a Qilin seal that shone with endless auspiciousness. The Ancestral Qilin explained, "This is the highest level treasure of the Qilin race, the Qilin seal. Seeing it is like seeing me. Now I give it to you. The Qilin race is entrusted to you." Yi Chun didn't refuse. He took the Qilin seal with both hands. Immediately, the introduction of the Qilin seal appeared in his mind. The Qilin seal. It was a connate treasure that accompanied the Ancestral Qilin when Pangu created the world. With the Qilin seal, you can command all the Qilins in the untainted world. The moment Yi Chun held the Qilin seal in his hand, he felt the Qilin seal become extremely hot. Then, a very comfortable aura entered his body. Somehow, Yi Chun and the Qilin star were inextricably linked. The Qilin seal had taken the initiative to recognize him as its master. The Ancestral Qilin looked weakly at Yi Chun. He didn't even wait for Yi Chun to nod. He said hurriedly, "Sir, it's all up to you." Suddenly, the Ancestral Qilin's body emitted a bright light. It was like the final radiance of the setting sun. The Ancestral Qilin's wounds healed at a visible rate. The Ancestral Qilin also emitted the same aura as the Ancestral Dragon. The four odd beasts were too young, and they didn't understand that this was the final radiance of the Ancestral Qilin. Instead, they cried out in excitement. Ancestral Qilin lovingly stroked the head of David's deer and then let out a deafening roar. Today, the Qilin tribe was persecuted by the demon Taoism, but we were saved by the monarch of the Samsara dynasty, Yi Chun. Now, I will not entrust the entire Qilin tribe to the monarch of the Samsara dynasty, Yi Chun. As the ancestor Qilin, I hereby make a great vow. From now on, my body will become the Qilin cliff, and I will protect the Samsara dynasty forever. Our Qilin tribe will be loyal to Yi Chun for generations. After the Ancestral Qilin made the great vow, it caused a vision of heaven and earth. A huge Qilin mark was formed in the sky, and there were mysterious patterns of great Tao on it. It stayed there for a full 15 minutes before slowly dissipating. After the Ancestral Qilin made the great vow, all the Qilin tribe in the untainted land felt it at the same time. The vow of the Ancestral Qilin blended into their blood like the spring wind and rain. In other words, whether it was the Kylan tribe that was alive now or the Kylan tribe that would be born in the future, they would have to submit to Yi-chan unconditionally from the moment they were born. Yi-chan finally let out a sigh of relief. It seemed that he had made the right move. He had successfully taken the creation that originally belonged to the heavenly lord of the origin. Yi-chan didn't show any joy on his face. He stroked the ancestral Chilin's back and said in a deep voice, "Ancestor Chilin, don't worry. As the monarch of the Samsara dynasty, I promise you that I will treat the 4 odd beasts well and let the Kylan tribe prosper. One day, I will definitely help Senior take revenge for this blood feud." The ancestral Chilin nodded in relief. He felt that he had not misjudged Yi-chan. Now, everything had been entrusted, and his wish had been fulfilled. He looked at the 4 odd beasts reluctantly. After a roar, the ancestral Chilin's body rose into the air and slowly turned into a cliff in the sky. It then shrank and fell into Yi-chan's hand. The moment the Chilin's edge fell into Yi-chan's hand, the description of the Chilin's edge appeared in his mind. The Chilin's edge was formed from the ancestral Chilin's body. It was the largest natural auspicious treasure in the untainted land. Wearing the Chilin's edge would give the host the greatest fortune in the untainted land. The Chilin's edge could also help the host avoid all negative statuses and eliminate all evil. At that moment, a clap of thunder sounded in the sky. The sound of thunder boomed and rang out in the World Channel. System announcement. Congratulations to player Yi-chan for successfully rescuing the ancestral Chilin from the hands of the demon race's Luo-ho, obtaining the loyalty of the Chilin clan. Player is rewarded with 200,000 free attribute points and 100,000 merit points. Players, please continue to work hard. This system announcement was broadcasted 3 times in a row in the World Channel. The players were completely shocked. They were still fighting desperately for their respective camps, but such a huge change had occurred. What's going on? I'm still in the Chilin clan faction. How did the Chilin clan get wiped out by the demon race's ancestor Luo-ho? Now that the Chilin clan has pledged loyalty to Yi-chan, do I have to pledge loyalty to Yi-chan too? What's going on? This is simply cheating. Could it be that the great desolate world is Yi-chan's backyard? I don't understand why Yi-chan is so lucky. After that, Yi-chan ignored the players' discussion in the World Channel. He bent down and patted the odd duck's head, then said to it, "Little one, you can follow me from now on." After that, Yi-chan took the odd duck and soared into the sky. In his mind, he received a series of system notifications. System notification, because players save the ancestral Chilin and change the original storyline. Player is rewarded with 5 million points. Yi-chan nodded in satisfaction. His efforts were not in vain. Now, the odd duck's favorability towards him had reached over 100, automatically becoming his mount. However, the odd duck was still young and immature. In terms of speed, it was not as fast as the Lava Dragon King. Looking at the pitiful odd duck, Yi-chan said to it, "Don't worry, I will not forget the promise I made to your father. One day, I will kill the demon race's Luo-ho and avenge your father." Yi-chan made some calculations in the sky and immediately adjusted his direction, quickly flying towards the Phoenix clan's Undying Mountain. He estimated that the demon race's Luo-ho would not leave the matter at that since he did not gain any benefits from the Chilin clan. His next target would probably be the Phoenix clan's ancestral Phoenix. Chapter 1431. The ancestor Phoenix had yet to recover her strength and was still in a weak state. She might not be a match for the demon ancestor Luo-ho. After all, the ancestor Phoenix had once had a night with Yi-chan. How could Yi-chan watch as the ancestor Phoenix was killed by the demon ancestor Luo-ho? Regardless of whether he could save her life, he would first go to the Undying Mountain to take a look. At this moment, Yi-chan suddenly felt a ripple in the void in front of him. Following that, a black cloud covered the area, filled with a dense demonic aura. Following that, a black-clothed person covered in a black robe rushed out from the black cloud. This was a player. His aura was equally powerful. Furthermore, there was a rather evil feeling coming from him. The player laughed coldly and said, "You must be Yi Chun, right? I just came to the wilderness and heard of your name. You are quite cocky. Now, I'll give you a chance to pledge your loyalty to me. Immediately give me the benefits you obtained from the Qilin clan. I can take you in as a follower." Yi Chun looked coldly at the guy who called himself Jiang Bufan, who suddenly jumped out. He frowned slightly and asked, "You didn't ascend from the Three Kingdoms novice zone, right?" Jiang Bufan suddenly laughed wildly and said, "That's right. I came from the novice zone of the smiling, proud wanderer. I am a child of destiny of that novice zone. It's just that the progress of our novice zone was too slow. When I ascended, I found out that you had snatched the opportunity. This was originally my opportunity. Now, I'm just returning it to its rightful owner." Yi Chun immediately understood. It seemed that the experts from the other planes had all ascended and entered the wilderness world. Then, it would be lively in the future. After knowing the background of this guy, Yi Chun did not waste any more words with him. With a wave of the Jingu Bang in his hand, he charged towards his opponent in an overwhelming manner. Jiang Bufan did not expect Yi Chun to attack directly. In a panic, he turned into a black smoke and retreated dozens of steps in the blink of an eye. Jiang Bufan said coldly, "I gave you face, but you don't want it. Since that's the case, don't blame me for being vicious and merciless." Following his command, countless evil spirits suddenly rushed out from the dark clouds and madly rushed towards Yi Chun. These wraiths were all at the heaven immortal realm and above. Their combat strength was truly astonishing. If it were an ordinary person, they would definitely be flustered. However, Yi Chun's eyes did not waver at all. With a flip of his wrist, the Qilin's edge appeared in his hand. Then, the cliff of Qilin suddenly emitted a blinding golden light. The evil spirits that were pouncing on the cliff of Qilin screamed and retreated in terror. Unfortunately, within the range of the cliff of Qilin's golden light, these evil spirits melted like snow under the scorching sun. Even the black cloud that Jiang Bufan had been relying on was rapidly disappearing and disappearing. Yi Chun also found a little funny. He had just obtained an auspicious treasure, the Qilin Tooth, that could remove all negative statuses and all threats. This Jiang Bufan was simply throwing himself into a trap by using these evil spirits to attack him. At this time, Jiang Bufan seemed to have suffered a heavy blow. He roared involuntarily, "Impossible! What's going on? These are the evil spirit servants I've accumulated for several years. How could they all be destroyed by you?" Yi Chun had no intention to talk nonsense with him. He snorted coldly. The Lava Dragon King had long been unable to hold back. It pounced forward, opened its mouth, and swallowed this arrogant son of fortune in one gulp. The Lava Dragon King smacked its lips as if it had not had enough. It sneered and said, "Any Tom, Dick, and Harry dares to jump out and provoke Master. You're overestimating yourself." Then, the Lava Dragon King looked at the David's deer provocatively. It bared its teeth and said, "Little guy, what are you looking at? Do you believe that I won't swallow you in one gulp?" Although the David's deer was young, the inherent pride of the Qilin royal family in its bloodline made it not afraid of the Lava Dragon King that was 10,000 times bigger than it. The David's deer spat out a mouthful of flames angrily and was about to fight the Lava Dragon King. Yi Chun snorted coldly and reprimanded, "Lava Dragon King, don't be presumptuous. You've lived for tens of thousands of years longer than the David's deer. How dare you bully a child?" The Lava Dragon King turned its head embarrassedly and said embarrassedly, "Master, don't be angry. I was just joking with this little guy." Yi Chun ignored the Lava Dragon King. He knew this guy's temper the best. He bullied the weak and feared the strong. He was also cunning and cruel. If he did not teach him a lesson, he would turn the sky upside down. At this time, Yi Chun suddenly heard a system announcement in the sky. System announcement. All players participating in the war between the three races, please pay attention. Now, the Dragon race and the Phoenix race are about to carry out the final battle. The battlefield is at the Sunset Plains. Please choose a player from the Dragon race and the Phoenix race, and quickly head to the Sunset Plains to meet up. After Yi Chun heard this, he immediately frowned. For the first time, he felt that his previous life's experience was wrong. According to his previous life's experience, the final battle between the dragon race and the phoenix race would be at least 3 days later. Now, it had been brought forward by so much. Perhaps it was because of the butterfly effect of him flapping his wings and saving the Qilin race, causing the storyline to change. This caused a series of reactions. However, Yi Chen remembered very clearly that the dragon race and the phoenix race were greatly weakened because of this final battle. It was almost a situation where both sides suffered losses. At this time, others took advantage of it. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. The war between the dragon race, the phoenix race, and the Qilin race was actually caused by Taishang Laojun, Yuanshi Tianzuan, Hongjun ancestor, and demon ancestor Luoho. Their goal was to exhaust the strength of the 3 strongest races in the great wasteland world. When both sides suffered losses, these supergiants of the great wasteland world would stand out and divide the resources of these races. When the dragon race and the phoenix race were at their weakest, they were robbed by these supergiants of the great wasteland world and were unable to recover. With their resources robbed and their people killed, they had become marginal forces in the great wasteland world. The entire great wasteland world was handed over to the witch race and the demon race to manage by these supergiants. Yi Chen's gaze seemed to have passed through endless time and space. The corner of his mouth revealed a trace of a sneer. These were only the directions of a storyline in his previous life. In this life, he was the one writing the directions. Now that he had obtained the opportunity that originally belonged to Yuanshi Tianzuan and the resources of the Qilin race, he had to do his best to obtain the resources of the dragon race and the phoenix race. Therefore, he had to speed up. He had to snatch all the benefits that he could before Hongjun ancestor, Luoho ancestor, Yuanshi Tianzuan, and Tongtian sect leader. Chapter 1432. After all, Yi Chen was no longer alone. He had so many people in the reincarnation dynasty waiting to be fed. They needed to be taken care of and developed. Resources were indispensable. Perhaps with the support of the 3 groups of resources, the reincarnation dynasty could gain a firm foothold in the eldritch world and have the capital to compete with the sorcerer race and the monster race. Therefore, Yi Chen immediately changed his direction in the air and rode the Lava Dragon King to the battlefield of the final battle between the Dragon Group and the Phoenix Group, the Sunset Plain. At this moment, Yi Chen was already dressed neatly. He was wearing the Phoenix Feather Purple Gold Crown, the Golden Chainmail, the Lotus Silk Cloud-Walking Shoes, the Rui Jingu Bang in his hand, and the Edge of Qilin on his body. He also quickly used up all the extra innate attribute points he had. His strength had been greatly improved. Although he was still at the level of Daluo Jinxian, he should be able to hold on for a longer time when he encountered the demon ancestor Luoho again. What made him feel regretful was that his chaotic sacred body was still at the 3rd level. He could not directly use the innate attribute points to level it up. However, it was enough for him to use. When Yi Chen arrived at the Sunset Plain, riding the Lava Dragon King, he saw the Dragon Group and the Phoenix Group fighting in full swing from afar, including the Ancestor Dragon and the Ancestor Phoenix. At this moment, the masters of the Dragon Group and the members of the Phoenix Group had covered the entire Sunset Plain. Both the ground and the sky were densely packed with the figures of the Dragon Group and the Phoenix Group. On the ground, there were those huge pythons and flood dragons belonging to the Dragon Group. On the ground, there were all kinds of huge flying beasts belonging to the Phoenix Group. Now, the 2 sides had started fighting. All kinds of energy collided and produced deafening noises. Waves of terrifying shock waves swept out in all directions. Corpses of the Dragon Group and the Phoenix Group kept falling from the sky. Soon, they were all devoured by the beasts on the ground. The Ancestor Dragon of the Dragon Group was leading a dozen ancient dragons and crazily attacking the dozen ancient phoenixes led by the Ancestor Phoenix. At this moment, the Ancestor Phoenix was being besieged by the Ancestor Dragon, the Ancient Azure Dragon, and the Ancient Winged Dragon. The Ancestral Phoenix hadn't recovered its full strength to begin with, and it was already exhausted after being forced to retreat under the attacks of the 3 ancient dragons. Yichen looked at the blood-stained ancestral phoenix and felt a little troubled. Although he belonged to the dragon faction, he and the ancestral phoenix were like fish in water. He couldn't just watch the ancestral phoenix die here. Yichen narrowed his eyes as he watched. He secretly decided that he would do his best and not put himself in danger again. He would lend a helping hand if he could. Whether or not Zhu Feng's life could be saved would depend on her own luck. But at this time, Yichen suddenly made an important discovery. That night, when Yichen was in a delirious state and had sex with her, the favorability between the two of them had temporarily reached 100. When Ancestral Phoenix woke up, the favorability would no longer exist. But now, Yichen found that Ancestral Phoenix's favorability towards him was at 100 again. Yichen didn't understand what was going on. In the end, he gritted his teeth. Since this was the case, he couldn't just stand by and do nothing. No matter how Ancestral Phoenix treated him, he had to save her first. At this time, Yichen's Samsara Legion had received his order and rushed to the edge of the Sunset Plain. They were on standby. With Yichen's order, the Samsara Legion joined the battlefield like wolves and tigers. After all, Yichen still belonged to the dragon faction. They had to get the points first. Just as the Samsara Legion charged, Yichen waved his hand. The David's deer immediately soared into the sky and landed among the Samsara Legion, following the commander of the Samsara Legion, Dian Wei. The David's deer kicked Dian Wei's mount away in disdain. Then it roared at Dian Wei. "Blockhead, Master ordered me to be your mount temporarily. Get on." Dian Wei immediately laughed and jumped onto the back of the David's deer. Although the David's deer was young, it was many times stronger than ordinary mounts. If it wasn't for Yichen's order, the David's deer wouldn't have let Dian Wei ride on its back, even if it wanted to. The David's deer suddenly let out an earth-shattering roar. The terrifying aura of the Qilin royal family immediately spread in all directions. Whether it was the dragon faction or the phoenix faction, the experts in flying beasts immediately felt their cultivation being suppressed. On the other hand, the elite warriors of the Samsara Legion were protected by an auspicious aura. Their bodies were filled with strength, and their fighting spirit was high. Their combat strength instantly increased by more than 50%. Under this situation, the million-man Samsara Legion team was in a complete mess. Blood flowed everywhere they passed. Countless players of the Phoenix faction were killed. The commotion on the ground finally attracted the attention of the high-level combatants in the sky. When Ancestral Graygon saw the miraculous performance of the Samsara Legion led by Yichen, he laughed heartily. He was also glad that such an outstanding human like Yichen chose the dragon faction. Ancestral Graygon also didn't expect the Qilin royal family to be loyal to Yichen. Didn't that mean that the Qilin royal family was also loyal to the dragon faction? The more Ancestral Graygon thought about it, the prouder he became. He turned around and said to Ancestral Phoenix in high spirits, "Ancestral Phoenix, your Phoenix faction's destiny is over. Why don't you surrender now? On account of our past friendship, I can spare your life." As the Ancestral Phoenix looked at the majestic Yichen, a complicated light flashed through her eyes. She bit her red lips and thought to herself, "This damned enemy has already bullied me, and now he's bringing people to bully my subordinates. This is too much." At this time, she didn't have time to think. Ancestral Graygon had already led a few other ancient dragons to launch a torrential attack on her. After all the players on the ground were killed, they would turn into white light and disappear. They would be kicked out of this large-scale storyline mission. After they died, they would randomly drop some equipment. At this time, the number of players killed by the Samsara Legion was more than 10 million. In an instant, the entire battlefield was filled with all kinds of brilliant equipment. The elite warriors of the Samsara Legion collected all the equipment based on the principle of not wasting anything. But at this moment, there was a trace of disharmony. The eyes of the players belonging to the dragon faction turned red after witnessing the equipment scattered all over the mountain. Their hearts were filled with greed. Instantly, countless players rushed forward to snatch the equipment. Chapter 1433. This immediately angered the generals of the Samsara Legion. However, they didn't act rashly. Instead, they raised their heads and looked at Yi Chun, who had a cold expression on his face. Yi Chun sneered. These players are still the same as before. They don't care about the rules at all. Since that's the case, there's no need to hesitate. After all the players of the Phoenix faction have been killed by him. Therefore, Yi Chun coldly waved his hand and made a killing gesture. After receiving Yi Chun's order, Dianwei's ugly face gradually turned sinister. He snarled, "You bastards, who gave you the guts to steal from the Samsara Legion? Brothers, kill them all." The 1,000,000 elite warriors of the Samsara Legion immediately turned around and raised their swords. They charged towards the players of the Dragon faction. The players in the Dragon Group camp were all dumbfounded. They never thought that this frightening ally army would actually turn around and attack them. The players roared, "What are you doing? We're on the same side. Why are you attacking us?" "Yeah, we're on the same side. We just stole 2 pieces of equipment from you guys. What's the big deal? Do you have to do this?" Yi Chun, the Samsara Legion of the Samsara dynasty, is rebelling. Are you going to do something about it? That's right, Yi Chun. You have to be punished for betraying your trust and attacking your own comrade. Lord of the Dragon Race, look, Yi Chun is rebelling. Hurry up and suppress him. Yi Chun's eyes were cold. His expression did not change at all. Since these people dare to steal from him, they should be prepared to pay the price. No one could save them, not even the Dragon faction. At this moment, the Dragon faction in the sky turned their attention towards Yi Chun. They were puzzled. They still remembered Yi Chun's Dragon faction. After all, Yi Chun had performed outstandingly at the ancestral Gragon's lecture. Moreover, Yi Chun's Samsara Legion had helped the Dragon faction a lot. They had killed a large number of players and beasts belonging to the Phoenix faction. If one were to say that Yi Chun was a traitor, then Yi Chun had yet to kill a single dragon. Therefore, the Dragon faction looked at their leader, the ancestral Gragon. The ancestral Gragon's gaze changed. He said coldly, "This is a personal grudge between the players. It's not convenient for us to interfere. As long as Yi Chun doesn't attack the Dragon faction, he can do whatever he wants." After seeing that the Dragon faction did not interfere, the players. Soon, the tens of millions of players who went to steal the Samsara Legion's equipment were slaughtered. More equipment was dropped. The warriors of the Samsara Legion slowly picked up all the equipment and looked at the players who did not participate in the fight. The players who belonged to the Dragon faction and did not participate in the fight shuddered. They quickly distanced themselves from the Samsara Legion. They were afraid that the Samsara Legion would kill them all. Yi Chun was not an unreasonable person. He waved his hand, and the Samsara Legion regrouped. They did not continue to attack the innocent players. The Samsara Legion only killed those who deserved to be killed. At this moment, the Phoenix faction's ground troops were almost completely wiped out. Under this situation, the Dragon faction's forces in the sky were gradually encircled and destroyed by the Dragon faction. A few ancient phoenixes of the Phoenix faction were also captured by the Dragon faction. Only a few of them were left fighting like trapped beasts. At this moment, the number of ancient dragons attacking the ancestral Gragon had reached 9. Under the frenzied attacks of the 9 ancient dragons, the ancestral Gragon could not hold on any longer. She spat out a mouthful of blood and fell weakly into the distance. Yi Chun, who had been waiting for a long time, immediately rode on the Lava Dragon King and soared into the sky. He caught the ancestral Gragon in his arms. At this moment, there was a trace of blood at the corner of Zhu Feng's mouth. She was extremely weak as she laid in Yi Chun's arms. She looked at him with a complicated gaze and said, "I knew a bastard like you wouldn't just stand by and watch." Yi Chun's face revealed a trace of awkwardness and a bitter smile. In the end, he had wronged the ancestral Gragon. First, he had stolen her child. Then, he had taken her first drop of blood while she was unconscious. Now, he had led the Samsara Legion to wantonly slaughter the subordinates of the Phoenix faction, causing the Phoenix faction to fail so quickly. Yichen finally sighed and said to the ancestral Graygon, "The experience is very complicated. I can't explain it to you in a short time. In the end, it's my fault. But don't worry, as long as I'm here, no one can hurt you. You're tired now, so take a good rest. Leave the rest to us." After saying that, Yi-chun directly sent the ancestral Graygon into the small world and ordered the people there to take good care of the ancestral Graygon. Before the ancestral Graygon fainted, she stuffed something into Yi-chen's hand. Yi-chen looked down and saw that it was a lifelike phoenix seal. It looked exactly the same as the Qilin seal. This was the phoenix seal. With it, it was as if he had seen the ancestral Graygon. The phoenix soulmate automatically recognized its master and soon merged with Yi-chun. Yi-chun raised his head and looked at the few remaining ancient phoenixes in the sky. They were still persevering and covered in blood. He raised the phoenix seal in his hand and roared, "Members of the Phoenix clan, listen to my order. I order you to stop fighting immediately and stand behind me." Although the ancient phoenixes were a little confused, the power from their bloodline made them stop fighting and stand behind Yi-chun in a flash. Yi-chun said to them in a deep voice, "Now that the situation has been decided, you can't change the outcome with just a few of you. Now that you've recovered, don't resist. I'll send you to a place." Then, Yi-chun waved his hand, and the few injured ancient phoenixes disappeared on the spot. They were sent to the small world to recuperate. At this moment, the ancient dragons were infuriated. The ancestral Graygon also stared at Yi-chun with a cold expression. He waved his hand, and countless ancient dragons surrounded Yi-chun. The ancestral Graygon said furiously, "Mutant Yi-chun, aren't you going to give me an explanation? Why did you betray the Fire Dragon clan?" Yi-chun laughed out loud. He did not take the dragons surrounding him seriously at all. He looked at the ancestral Graygon and the ancient dragons with a pitiful and sad expression. He shook his head and said, "Betray? That doesn't exist. I'm just laughing at your foolishness. You don't even know that you're being used as a chess piece. You're about to be taken advantage of by others. Do you understand?" Chapter 1434. Ancestral Dragon was about to order the dragon warriors to attack Yi-chun, but he was frightened by Yi-chen's shocking words. He saw that Yi-chen's expression did not seem to be fake at all. Therefore, he said to Yi-chun in a deep voice, "Yi-chun, what do you mean by this? Don't you try to mislead the others with your lies." Yi-chun laughed out loud. He looked at Ancestral Graygon with some sympathy and said, "What a pity. Your dragon race is already at death's door, but you still refuse to realize your mistake. Since that's the case, I'll open your eyes." After saying that, Yi-chun straightened his body, sneered at the void in the distance, and said, "Demon Ancestor Luo Ho, how long do you plan to hide there? It's your turn to show up." All the dragons were stunned. Of course, they knew the great name of Demon Ancestor Luo Ho. Could it be that the great demon, who killed people like scything flax, had come here without making a sound? Indeed, as Yi-chun said, Demon Ancestor Luo Ho was indeed hiding in this void. He was waiting for the moment when both the dragons and phoenixes were severely wounded. But now, he was suddenly pointed out by someone. It was simply unbelievable. Right after that, Demon Ancestor Luo Ho slowly flashed out of the void. The moment Demon Ancestor Luo Ho appeared, an eerie and terrifying aura spread out in all directions. His body was surrounded by pitch-black demonic chi that was as black as ink. Those dragons with weaker cultivation bases did not even have the courage to raise their heads. And after Demon Ancestor Luo Ho appeared, all the ancient dragons, including the ancestral dragon, drew a cold gasp. Their hearts felt like they had fallen into the abyss of the nine hells. It turned out that everything Yi-chun said was true. What was Demon Ancestor Luo Ho trying to do by hiding in this place? His purpose was self-evident. So, where are the other almighty beings from the ancient times? With a complicated expression, Ancestral Dragon looked at Yi-chun and said, "Fellow Taoist Yi-chun, it seems that I have wronged you. I'm very sorry. Yichen waved his hand nonchalantly. He had always been magnanimous towards the dead. In his opinion, the outcome was already predetermined. Perhaps others might be able to escape, but as the leader of the dragon race, the ancestral dragon would definitely not be able to escape this difficult situation. Even he did not have the ability to bring the ancestral Gragon away. Fiend Patriarch Luo Ho stared at Yi Chun with a pair of sinister eyes. Suddenly, a ferocious smile appeared on his face as he said, "So, it's you, little kid. I let you escape from the Kirin clan and spoiled my plan. Now you are here again. Since you're here, don't leave. You can provide nourishment for my immortal slaying sword formation together with this bunch of trash from the dragon race." After saying that, Fiend Ancestor Luo Ho suddenly raised his head to look into the void and said loudly, "Tong Tian, the time has come. What are you still hesitating for? Show yourself." Sure enough, the surrounding void twisted, and Tong Tian appeared in another part of the sky with the 4 immortal extermination swords on his back. He had made an agreement with Fiend Ancestor Luo Ho long ago. They were going to take advantage of this Dragon Phoenix tribulation to seize some resources. Both of them had joined forces, taking advantage of the fact that after the war between the Dragon race and the Phoenix race had ended, the miserable souls wandering in the world would trigger the immortal slaying sword formation together. The current situation was much worse than what they had expected. The Phoenix race had lost too quickly, while the Dragon race had left too much of their strength. However, this did not stop them from setting up the immortal slaying sword formation. At most, it would just be a little troublesome. Therefore, Tong Tian and Fiend Ancestor Luo Ho looked at each other. Then, both of them surrounded the entire battlefield. 4 immortal extermination swords automatically flew out from Tong Tian's back and landed in 4 different directions. The 4 immortal extermination swords were the Immortal Exterminating Sword, Immortal Slaughtering Sword, Immortal Exterminating Sword, and Immortal Trapping Sword. Each of them was a supreme treasure. After the immortal slaying sword formation was completed, a ghastly white sword energy soared into the sky, surrounding the entire battlefield so tightly that not even a drop of water could trickle through. Countless sharp sword cheese crisscrossed in the void. As the immortal slaying sword formation was constructed with the help of the vengeful spirits of countless dead dragons and phoenixes, all the dragons present felt that they were locked on by a faintly discernible aura. At the same time, Taishang Laojun, Yuan Shi, Tianzuan, and the other ancient almighty experts slowly revealed themselves in the void. They stared coldly at the remaining forces of the dragon race and phoenix race. It was time to reap the benefits. Sure enough, when the ancestral dragon and the ancient dragons saw these ancient almighty experts reveal themselves one after another, an extremely miserable expression appeared on each of their faces. It seemed that the dragon race, phoenix race, and Shielan race had indeed been set up by these ancient almighty experts. Even if the dragon race were to win in the end, they would only be helping these ancient almighty experts to gather the resources. As the leader of the dragon race, the ancestral dragon had the most sword energy twining around him. The ancestral dragon shook his head and said to Yi Chun in a low voice, "Taoism Peer Yi Chun, I'm really regretful. Unfortunately, it's too late. I know I can't leave here. This is the seal of our dragon race. With it, you can command the entire dragon race in the untainted land. I hope you will treat our dragon race well in the future. You better leave here as soon as possible." After speaking, Ancestral Gragon's body suddenly emitted a terrifying aura. A tyrannical yet gentle force pushed towards Yichun. With the help of this force, Yichun quickly rushed out of the immortal slaying sword formation and disappeared without a trace in the blink of an eye. Thousands of miles away, Yichun's figure appeared. He looked at the seal of the dragon race in his hand and sighed. The war between the dragon race, phoenix race, and Shielan race had come to an end. These 3 most powerful races in the untainted land had completely declined. Fortunately, the highest seal of these 3 races was in his hand. He could still command the dragon race, phoenix race, enchantment race that did not participate in this war. He shook his head and looked at the plains thousands of miles away where the dragon race and phoenix race were fighting. There, he could vaguely sense a murderous aura. The ancestral dragon must have led the remaining dragon race to fight with demon ancestor Luo Ho, Tong Tian, and the others. This was just a last-ditch struggle. Putting aside how powerful demon ancestor Luo Ho and Tong Tian were, just the immortal slaying sword formation alone could slaughter more than half of the dragon race warriors. As for the remaining players from the dragon race faction who did not leave, their fates were predictable. Those ancient almighty experts would not let them leave alive. As expected, the players were soon cursing in the World Channel, claiming that they were all indiscriminately attacked by those ancient almighty experts and were all killed instantly. Chapter 1435. At this time, there was a sudden clap of thunder in the sky, and a system announcement rolled across the World Channel. System announcement. Large-scale storyline quest, Dragon Race, Phoenix Race, and enchantment race has ended. The Dragon Race, Phoenix Race, and enchantment race have suffered great losses. From now on, they will leave the stage of chaos. The Witch Race and the Shifter Race will rise. Players who have participated in the storyline quest, please head to the East Sea Dragon Palace according to the points you have earned in the storyline quest. Find Xiao Longnu in exchange for this reward. When the system announcement came out, the players started talking again. This time, the storyline quest had ended too carelessly. Many players hadn't used their full strength yet. They were waiting for the second half of the quest to come out. So, in the World Channel, most of the players were complaining. Some of the more rational players were already preparing to head to the East Sea Dragon Palace to find Xiao Longnu to exchange for the reward. Yichen found himself at the edge of the East Sea. In a flash, he arrived at the East Sea Dragon Palace and found Xiao Longnu. Yichen had earned 60 million points from this large-scale storyline quest. Moreover, he still had several system notifications that he hadn't checked yet. When Yichen looked through the system announcements, he found out that he had saved Zhu Feng on the battlefield and changed the progression of the storyline. He was rewarded with another 10 million points. After Yichen saw it, he was overjoyed. Yichen was very familiar with the East Sea, and all the oceanic generals in the East Sea knew Yichen. They also knew that he had an ambiguous relationship with Xiao Longnu. These oceanic generals had long thought of Yichen as the son-in-law of the oceanic. Even the East Sea Dragon King thought so. Yichen looked at the items that could be exchanged. It turned out that points could be exchanged for divine weapons, natural treasures, pills, experience points, cultivation, and so on. Yichen looked through and found that he wasn't interested in any divine weapons, and he didn't lack any natural treasures. Yichen thought about it. What he lacked the most now was cultivation. Right now, Yichen had less than 1,000 years of cultivation. If he wanted to become a saint in the future, not only would he need to have enough merit, cultivation was also essential. For example, the three saints, Taishang Laojun, Yuan Shi Tianzuan, and Tongtian sect leader, all had tens of thousands of years of cultivation when they became saints. So, Yichen decided that after finding Xiao Longnu, he would exchange all his points for cultivation. Ever since Xiao Longnu and Yichen parted, she couldn't eat or sleep. She had been looking forward to his return. When Yichen finally appeared outside the Dragon Palace, Lilitergon was so excited that she screamed and jumped into Yichen's arms like a swallow in a forest. Of Xiao Longnu of yours, of course, Longnu. Of Longnu, of his of you, of your mind, s of your heart of your hearts. Xiao Longnu shyly buried her head in Yichen's broad chest. Her entire face was buried in his chest. From the moment you left, I began to think about how dangerous it is outside. There are battles of life and death everywhere. You will be in danger if you go out alone, she said with a buzzing voice. Yichen laughed and said, "Well, I'm back now, aren't I? By the way, I heard a notification from the Heavenly Axiom. It said that you can exchange points for rewards, right?" Xiao Longnu immediately waved her small white fist and said, "Yes, I just found out about the mission that the Heavenly Axiom gave me. Am I very powerful? Yi Chen frowned and said, but there are hundreds of millions of players who want to exchange points. Are you sure you can handle it all by yourself? Xiao Longnu smiled and said, Darling, I know you care about me, but don't underestimate me. The heavenly axiom just gave me a temporary skill. That skill allows me to transform into thousands of people. After saying that, Xiao Longnu's body flashed. Then, Yi Chen found that there were shadows of Xiao Longnu everywhere in the palace. His powerful divine sense covered the entire East Sea Dragon Palace. He found that Xiao Longnu's shadows were everywhere. There were at least tens of millions of Xiao Longnu in the huge East Sea Dragon Palace. This surprised him. Even he couldn't have so many clones at once. Yi Chen stroked Xiao Longnu's hair happily, messing up her black hair. He smiled and said, I didn't expect a little girl like you to have some skills. Then help your husband exchange points for cultivation experience. Xiao Longnu didn't care about her hair being messed up like a bird's nest. Instead, she closed her eyes comfortably, like a cat that was about to snore. She checked and said, Darling, you have a total of 70 million points. You can exchange them for 7,000 years of cultivation experience. Are you sure you want to exchange them? Yi Chen didn't expect this. He didn't expect that the points he got this time could be exchanged for 7,000 years of cultivation experience. In addition to his original points, didn't that mean he had at least 8,000 years of cultivation experience? There was no need to hesitate. Yi Chen immediately chose to accept. Then a warm current rose up from his body. Yi Chen opened his status panel and found that he had over 8,600 years of cultivation experience. As a result, the various skills that he possessed had also improved along with it. Yi Chen laughed with satisfaction. He had over 8,000 years of cultivation experience in such a short time. It shouldn't take long for him to reach 10,000 years of cultivation experience. When he reached 10,000 years of cultivation experience, he could break through to the Saint Realm. At this time, the players arrived at the East Sea Dragon Palace one after another. They wanted to find Xiao Longnu to help them exchange points. At this time, Yi Chen was holding Xiao Longnu in his arms. He wanted to be intimate with her. After hearing the reports from the shrimp soldiers outside, Yi Chen was impatient. He snorted and said, Let them exchange points elsewhere. Why should my woman work for them? Xiao Longnu hid in Yi Chen's arms and giggled. Therefore, Yi Chen carried Xiao Longnu into the bedroom and started to make love. Under Yi Chen's command, the shrimp soldiers and crab generals immediately blocked the players outside the East Sea Dragon Palace. More and more players gathered outside the East Sea Dragon Palace. When they saw that they were not allowed to enter the East Sea Dragon Palace, they started to criticize, why can't we enter the East Sea Dragon Palace? Why can't we exchange points? The system just said that we can exchange points with Xiao Longnu. That's right. Why are the dragon race so arrogant? The entire dragon race has disappeared. If you don't get out of the way, we'll destroy the East Sea Dragon Palace. How about that? More and more players started clamoring to destroy the East Sea Dragon Palace. Chapter 1436. At this moment, the majestic and murderous Samsara Legion suddenly appeared and blocked the path of the East Sea Dragon Palace. The Samsara Legion's elite warriors locked their sharp gazes on the players who were shouting the loudest. At this moment, the weakest of the Samsara Legion's elite warriors had already broken through to the Earth Immortal Realm. Coupled with the buffs from their top-notch equipment, their combat strength was truly astonishing. When the players saw the appearance of the Samsara Legion, they instantly shivered. Many of the players were resurrected by the Samsara Legion, which left a deep shadow in their hearts. After seeing the appearance of the Samsara Legion, their tone became much softer. One of them said to Dian Wei in a submissive manner, General, we did not provoke the Samsara Legion. We want to go in and exchange for our rewards. Why are you blocking our way? Dian Wei valiantly pushed the player a few meters away, causing him to fall to the ground. Dian Wei stood boldly at the entrance of the passage and said coldly, Nonsense, Xiao Longnu is the woman of my king. How could she serve you useless people? If you want to go in and exchange for your points, you have to leave half of your points as the toll. Otherwise, scram back to where you came from. Dian Wei's words caused a huge uproar among the players. Are you kidding me? You want to leave half of your points as toll? That's too black-hearted. It's practically daylight robbery. Zhang Fei stood beside Dian Wei, holding the serpent spear in his hand, and roared impatiently. Hand it over if you want. If you don't hand it over, scram. Do you think my king cares about your points? If you dare to make a ruckus here, I, old Zhang, will kill you all. At this moment, a system announcement rang in the minds of all the players. There are still 4 hours until the end of the exchange. Players, please hurry to the East Sea Dragon Palace to exchange for your points with Xiao Longnu. Once the time limit is exceeded, the exchange system will be closed. The players immediately became anxious. Once the exchange was closed, all the points in their hands would be wasted. Some of the unruly players tried to barge into the Samsara Legion, but before they could even reach the Samsara Legion, they were killed and turned into streams of light. Some of the players gritted their teeth and stomped their feet. Forget it, half it is. If we don't give it to them, our points will be completely wasted. After saying that, he rushed out, found the general of the Samsara Legion, and handed over half of his points. The Samsara Legion kept their word. After the player handed in his points, they opened a path for him to enter the East Sea Dragon Palace. With the first one, there would soon be a second. More and more players rushed up to hand in their points, and then went in to look for Lollidragon's avatar to exchange for rewards. At this moment, all the players could no longer sit still. In order to protect their remaining points, they all stepped forward to hand them in, and then went into exchange. Although these players had a lot of points, and some only had a few thousand points, there were too many of them. There were at least a few billion of them, and when they accumulated, it would be a huge number. The soldiers of the Samsara Legion earned a lot of points in an instant. When the 1 million elite soldiers of the Samsara Legion were averaged out, each of them had more than 10 million points. These elite soldiers of the Samsara Legion used these points to convert into their own cultivation. In an instant, the Samsara Legion leveled up. Even the weakest of them had reached the peak of the heavenly immortal realm. As for Dian Wei, Zhang Fei, Zhao Yun, and the others, their cultivation had all leveled up to the golden immortal realm. In an instant, the combat power of the Samsara Legion increased by leaps and bounds. Even the super forces of the Eldritch Land could not be underestimated. No force dared to start a conflict or war with such a strong combat power. Now, the Samsara Legion could even challenge the Dragon Race or the Phoenix Race at their peak. Moreover, the Samsara Legion was organized and disciplined. Their combat power was much stronger than the Scattered Dragon Race and the Phoenix Race. The players who were robbed complained and cursed in the World Channel, but it was all in vain. Of course, Yichen knew what was going on outside. In fact, he was the one who did it for Dian Wei, Zhang Fei, and the others. He was just unhappy that these players worked so hard for his women. Therefore, it was reasonable for them to leave some money for the passage. Yichen stayed in the East Sea Dragon Palace with Xiao Longnu for 3 days. After 3 nights, he finally relaxed and went back home. He returned to the Samsara Legion. This time, the Samsara Legion had improved greatly. Not only did they obtain a large amount of natural treasures, but they also obtained countless equipment. The Samsara Legion immediately expanded their army. The Crimson Moon Ridge, which was previously abandoned, returned to the territory of the Samsara Legion. Yichun even ordered the Samsara Legion to attack personally and conquer a neighboring state. Now, the Samsara Legion controlled 3 states. Yichun's eyes were sharp as he hovered above the city wall of the Samsara Legion. Now, the Samsara Legion could only expand to this point. They could not continue to expand. After all, the Dragon Race, the Phoenix Race, and the Kirin Race had left the stage. Now, the Sorcerer Race and the Demon Race were about to rise. In the future, the Sorcerer Race and the Demon Race would have the final say in the Eldritch Land. Moreover, the Demon Race would soon use the East Emperor Bell to establish the ancient Heavenly Court. At this juncture, it was not suitable for the Samsara Legion to go to war with the Demon Race. Yichen took stock of his gains. First of all, he obtained the highest seals of the dragon, phoenix, and Kirin tribes. With this seal, Yichen would be able to command the phoenix, dragon, and Kirin tribes in the untainted land. Although the main forces of the three tribes had been depleted, there were still many tribes scattered across the vast, untainted land. What Yichen wanted to do was to gather a portion of the tribesmen of the three tribes to settle down in the Samsara Legion. At the same time, he wanted to strengthen the high-end forces of the Samsara Legion. After devouring tens of millions of supreme, immortal stones, the David's deer grew rapidly into a majestic and auspicious beast. The David's deer was now twice as fast as the Lava Dragon King, which made the Lava Dragon King very unhappy. It felt that it was about to lose Yichen's favor. The Lava Dragon King was very cunning. It quickly changed its role from being Yichen's mount to being Yichen's most loyal henchman. It was the kind of henchman that would do whatever Yichen told it to, and bite whoever Yichen told it to. Yichen did not mind having such an obedient henchman. After all, the Lava Dragon King had signed a contract with him. It would never betray him. At this moment, Yichen suddenly felt a spiritual wave from the small world. He smiled. It seemed that Zhu Feng had woken up. His figure flashed and appeared in his harem. Without alerting anyone, he returned to his own bedroom. No one could enter here without Yichen's permission, including Yichen's women. Chapter 1437. Yichen stayed in his Samsara dynasty to sort out his gains and plan the future route of the Samsara dynasty. The guard reported that a guest had come to visit and claimed to be Immortal Yuding. Yichen frowned slightly. Immortal Yuding was the disciple of Heavenly Lord Yuanshi. What was he doing here? Now the war between the Dragon Tribe and the Phoenix Tribe had ended. Could it be that Heavenly Lord Yuanshi had noticed that he had snatched the opportunity that originally belonged to him and asked Immortal Yuding to settle accounts with him? Yichen then shook his head. Although Heavenly Lord Yuanshi had the ability to predict the future, he would never expect that he had snatched the opportunity that belonged to him. Then Yichen ordered someone to invite Immortal Yuding in. Immortal Yuding walked into the throne hall. When he saw Yichen, he was inevitably a little embarrassed. Last time, he even wanted to accept Yichen as his disciple, but it was too ridiculous. Along the way, Immortal Yuding saw the strength of the entire Samsara dynasty. Not to mention other things, those valiant generals with dragon-like chi and blood were not weaker than him. When Yichen saw Immortal Yuding, he couldn't help but want to laugh. He also remembered that on the way to the Phoenix Tribe, he had met this guy who wanted to accept him as his disciple. Therefore, Yichen smiled and said to Immortal Yuding, "How have you been, fellow Taoist? Do you still want to take me as your disciple?" Immortal Yuding immediately said with a wry smile, "Your Majesty, don't make fun of me. I didn't recognize you at that time and made a fool of myself. This time, I was entrusted by my master to send an invitation to your Majesty." After that, Immortal Yuding stretched out his hand, and a golden invitation flew automatically into Yichen's hand. Yichen picked it up and glanced at it. He was stunned. It turned out that this was an invitation from Heavenly Lord Yuanshi to go to the Jade Virtual Palace to listen to the sermon. That was to say, Heavenly Lord Yuanshi would preach in the Jade Virtual Palace 7 days later and invited Yichen to listen to the sermon. Perfected Yuding looked at the golden scene and felt very reluctant. This was not an ordinary invitation to preach the Tao, but an invitation to Heavenly Lord of Primordial beginning to preach about the primordial chaos Tao fruit. In the entire great desolate world, it was extremely precious. Those who could receive the primordial chaos Tao fruit from the Heavenly Lord of Primordial beginning were all super mighty figures in the primordial world who could shake the world with a stomp of their feet. Among the Inhumans, Yichen was the only one who received an invitation. Could it be that in the eyes of the Heavenly Lord of Yuanshi, Yichen also had the hope of becoming a sage in the future? After all the super mighty figures who came to listen to the primeval Lord of Heaven talk about the origin Tao fruit had a chance of becoming a sage. After listening to the primeval Lord of Heaven's preaching, there was a great chance that one could build the Taoist foundation of becoming a sage. Yichen would never let go of such a good opportunity. After thanking immortal Yuding, he decided to go to the Jade Mirage Palace 7 days later to listen to Heavenly Lord Yuanshu talk about the origin Tao fruit. At the same time, Yichen also sorted out the direction of the plot of the Great Desolate World. It had been some time since Hongjun became a great Tao. The way of heaven had slowly established order, whether it was the natives of the Great Desolate World or the inhumans like Yichen. As long as one's cultivation exceeded 10,000 years, they would have to transcend the tribulation. Only when they succeeded in transcending the tribulation could they enter a higher cultivation level and continue to live. If they failed to transcend the tribulation, they would naturally turn into ashes. Now, Yichen had accumulated a lot of merit power, and his cultivation level was almost at the threshold. Such an opportunity to listen to the origin Tao fruit was extremely precious to him. After all, this was the key to building the foundation of a sage. Moreover, Yichen had quietly made a copy of this invitation. He had other plans for this invitation. If Yichen was right, the great Tao Hongjun ancestor would preach the Tao in the Purple Cloud Palace again soon. The last time, the great Tao Hongjun ancestor's preaching had helped the Heavenly Lord of Heaven, Taishang Laojun, and Tongtian's sect leader become sages. Moreover, it had created countless powerful figures. One could imagine the importance of the Tao preaching in the Purple Cloud Palace. With this invitation, Yichen could pretend to be a disciple of the Jade Mirage Palace and go to the Purple Cloud Palace to listen to the preaching of the Tao. 7 days later, Yichen rode the Lava Dragon King to the Jade Mirage Palace of the Kunlun Mountain. As for why he did not ride the odd beasts, it was because Yichen did not want to provoke the Heavenly Lord of Heaven. If the Heavenly Lord of Heaven saw the odd beast and suddenly deduced something, it would be troublesome. When Yichen took out his invitation, he was politely led to the Jade Mirage Palace by the disciples of the Jade Mirage Palace. Along the way, these disciples looked at Yichen with envy. They were even a little jealous. How could they not be jealous? This was the preaching of the origin Tao fruit. Even his disciples did not have a quota. If these quotas were given to the powerful figures in the untainted land, it would be fine. However, the quota was given to Yichen, who was not famous at all. Therefore, these disciples were somewhat unconvinced. Of course, Yichen did not have time to think about what these disciples were thinking. At his current realm, he disdained to argue with these disciples. After all, he was going to become a sage in the future. He had to set his sights higher. At this time, the Heavenly Lord of Heaven was sitting cross-legged on the highest futon in the Jade Mirage Palace. On both sides of him, there were many powerful figures in the untainted land. They were all there, listening carefully to the preaching of the Heavenly Lord of Heaven. Suddenly, the Heavenly Lord of Heaven raised his head and looked in the direction of the entrance of the Jade Mirage Palace. He smiled and said, "Ha! Isn't this His Majesty Yichen, the monarch of the Samsara dynasty? Your Majesty, your presence brings light to my humble Jade Mirage Palace." Yichen smiled and cupped his fists. He said in neither servile nor overbearing manner, "You are too polite, sage. It is my honor to be invited by you." The conversation between the Heavenly Lord of Heaven and Yichen immediately attracted the attention of all the powerful figures. They looked at each other and communicated with each other through divine sense. Who is this? Why is the Heavenly Lord of Heaven so polite to him? This guy must be a dissimulated man. Yes, isn't he a dissimulated man? These dissimulated men suddenly came to this world a while ago. I also took in a few dissimulated men as my disciples. However, most of them are impetuous and not very useful. Ha! Everyone, you are a little ignorant. Do you know about the war between the 3 clans a few days ago? My fellow Taoist, you don't mean to say that. How can we not know about the war between the Dragon Tribe, the Phoenix Tribe, and the Kylan Tribe? Not only that, I'm sure everyone knows what's going on behind the scenes. Then the mighty figure pointed to the sky and said, "Speaking of which, These three groups are the three most powerful races in the untainted land. It's a pity that they were targeted by those above. Since then, they've been unable to recover from the setback. Chapter 1438. The first one nodded and said, "We all know what you just said, but I'm afraid you've forgotten one thing. Before the ancestor of the Kirin clan died, he entrusted his youngest son, the four odd beasts, to Yichun. Moreover, the dancing Qilin transformed into Qilinya and guarded Yichun for life. In addition, all the Kirins in the untainted world will be loyal to Yichun from now on." These powerful figures immediately gasped. This was too powerful. Although the Kirin clan had declined, a starving camel was still bigger than a horse. Kirins were strange beasts in the world. Once they reached adulthood, they would have the power of a quasi-sage. The number of Kirins in the untainted world would be at least as many as the heavenly Dipper realm. This was quite amazing. Suddenly, these powerful figures looked at Yichun in a different way. At this time, another powerful figure said, "Fellow Taoists, Yichun's ability is not only that. Otherwise, he would not have been invited by the Primordial. I heard that Yichun also has a Samsara dynasty under his name. He has tens of millions of soldiers, among which there are hundreds of fierce generals at the Golden Immortal Realm. The most elite Samsara Legion has millions of soldiers, almost all of whom are celestial immortals. Everyone who is not afraid." At this time, all the powerful figures gasped. They finally understood why the primogenitor Lord of Heaven invited Yichun. The lineup of Yichun subordinates could be said to be luxurious. Even the primogenitor Lord of Heaven, Taishang Lao Jun, Tongtian sect leader, and even the demon ancestor Luo Ho, who dared to beat their chest and say that they did not care about the strength of Yichun subordinates. This was understandable. The primogenitor Lord of Heaven invited Yichun to listen to the Tao just to do him a favor. However, from then on, he had received a great kindness. Perhaps in the future, Yichun would be able to give him a generous reward. Therefore, for a moment, these powerful figures smiled and nodded at Yichun. Moreover, a disciple of the primogenitor Lord of Heaven was lucky enough to come in and serve these powerful figures. They stood behind these powerful figures and heard their conversation. Among them were Jiang Zia and Shun Gongbao. Jiang Zia and Shun Gongbao looked at each other and said nothing. However, a strange light flashed in the depth of their pupils. No one knew what they were thinking. Yuan Shi Tianzuan sat on a jade futon and gently flicked the whisk in his hand. Since everyone is here, let's continue to talk about the origin Tao fruit. Fellow Taoists, please listen carefully. Therefore, honored Lord of the Origin continued to talk about the origin Tao fruit. Yichun frowned slightly. The origin Tao fruit, that honored Lord of the Origin Tao fruit, was much more complicated than what he had heard in the Dragon tribe and the Phoenix tribe. Although he could not understand most of it, Yichun still focused. Even if he could not understand it now, he had to record it all. He could slowly study it later. He could not miss this opportunity. As for Yichun, he had unknowingly immersed himself in it. His entire body was shrouded in a misty green light. At the same time, Yichun's chaotic sacred body, which had been silent for a long time, began to rapidly evolve again. After an unknown period of time, Yichun suddenly woke up and found that honored Lord of the Origin had finished talking. Yichun's chaotic sacred body had also broken through to the 5th level. The 5th level of the chaotic sacred body could increase his strength, reaction speed, and physical strength by 5 times. Yichun clenched his fist and felt the vigorous power. He nodded with satisfaction. In addition, he felt that there was a very hazy sage's Taoist root in his divine soul. This discovery made Yichun very happy. This was the biggest gain from listening to honored Lord of the Origin. Although this trace of sage's Taoist root was very hazy, after all, it had laid a foundation. It would not be long before he could touch the sage realm. At this time, the powerful figures who had come to listen to the fruit of the origin had gradually left. When they left, they came over to say hello to Yichun. Yichun naturally greeted them with a smile. After all, they were all powerful figures of the realm of untainted desolation. It was inevitable that they would be useful in the future. It should be easy to talk to them since they had the friendship of listening to the immemorial path together. Just as Yi-chan was about to say goodbye to honored Lord of the Origin, immortal Yu Ding came over again. He cupped his fists and said with a smile, "Fellow Taoist, please wait." When Yi-chan saw immortal Yu Ding, he also turned around and said with a smile, "Fellow Taoist, what can I do for you?" Immortal Yu Ding said with a smile, "Master asked me to tell you that the Queen Mother of the West is going to hold the Feast of Peaches in the ancient heavenly court. At that time, all the immortals in the world will be there. Master asked me to invite you to participate in it. What do you think?" After hearing this, Yi-chun was stunned for a moment. Then he remembered that in his previous life, he had heard that the Queen Mother of the West was going to hold the first Feast of Peaches at this time. At that time, all the powerful figures of the untainted desolation world would be there. However, at that time, none of the players were qualified to participate. But now, he had been invited by honored Lord of the Origin. How could Yi-chan refuse? It was the Feast of Peaches. Not to mention that the peaches of peaches were very beneficial to cultivation. He should go and meet the powerful figures of the untainted desolation world who were going to participate in the Feast of Peaches. Yi-chen's eyes flashed with a trace of the power of thunder. Dongwang Tai of the demon tribe had established the ancient heavenly court and ruled the untainted land together with the wizard tribe. Yi-chen estimated that sooner or later he would fight with Dongwang Tai. It was better to go and have a look now. As the leader of the female immortals in the world, the Queen Mother of the West was also a peerless beauty. It was said that the Queen Mother of the West was the manifestation of the yin qi of the innate yin. It could be said that she was the most feminine woman in the world. Of course, the most famous one in the future was the immortal peach that the Queen Mother of the West possessed. It was said that the peach of immortality in the hands of the Queen Mother of the West could help the immortals in the world pass the tribulation. As long as they ate the peach of immortality, they would be able to avoid the most dangerous tribulation for these immortals. This was the first heavenly peach banquet in the world, and all the immortals participating in it were of the highest quality. Therefore, Yi-chen gladly agreed. Then, the heavenly primogenitor brought his disciples to the Jasper Lake to participate in the Feast of Peaches. The heavenly lord of the primeval Lord of the Origin had incredible means. He traversed the void at an extremely fast speed. The disciples of the heavenly Lord of the Origin also came over to get close to Yi-chan. There must be a reason why their master valued this man so much. In the blink of an eye, the primeval Lord of Heaven brought Yi-chan and his disciples to the jade pool of the ancient heavenly court. This was Yi-chan's first time coming to the ancient heavenly court. As expected, the atmosphere here was extraordinary and majestic. Moreover, the spiritual qi in the ancient heavenly court was quite abundant. Above the 33 heavens, there was no spiritual qi, but immortal qi. White clouds formed by immortal qi floated under his feet. This was really a paradise on earth. At this time, many immortals had already arrived at the jade pool. When they saw the primeval Lord of Heaven, they all stood up and saluted. Yi-chan followed behind and got to know these legendary almighties. However, he had already met some of his old acquaintances. For example, Tong Tian and Taishang Laojun. Tong Tian and Taishang Laojun obviously did not expect to see Yi-chan in the crowd. They looked at each other and immediately understood the cause and effect. Tong Tian secretly transmitted his voice to the primeval Lord of Heaven. "You are quite fast. You have already established a relationship with this dissimulated man in advance." The primeval Lord of Heaven smiled and transmitted his voice to Tong Tian. "Everything is up to fate. Now, I'm just planting the seed. As for the fruit, it is up to the will of heaven." Chapter 1439. Here, Yi-chan followed Heavenly Lord Yuan Shi and got to see those legendary mighty figures as he wished, including Taoist Jain, who would become Gautama Buddha in the future, Dipankara Buddha, Emperor Jun, Dongwang Tai, and others. Other than Taishang Laojun and the prime of Tong Tian, everyone else looked down on Yi Chun. After all, in the eyes of these super mighty figures, the dissimulated people were too insignificant. It was a pity that these people did not know Yi Chun's speed of improvement. Otherwise, they would definitely pay attention to him. Yi Chun was not depressed by the contempt of these mighty figures at all. Instead, he felt a little lucky. It was the best way to make a fortune quietly. His current strength was not enough to confront these super mighty figures head-on. Anyway, now that they knew each other, Yi Chun left Heavenly Lord Yuanshi and walked around casually. After a few steps, Yi Chun saw that no one was paying attention to him, so he quietly changed his appearance and body shape. Then his aura became completely different. Even if someone who was very familiar with him stood in front of him, he might not be able to recognize him. Yi Chun had his own plan. This was the Jade Pool, where there might be other opportunities. Once his real identity was exposed, even if he was not afraid, there would still be some trouble. At this moment, he suddenly felt that the noise of the whole scene suddenly became much lower. All the immortals involuntarily looked in one direction. Yi Chun also looked in that direction. At this moment, he saw a beautiful woman walking out slowly, accompanied by a group of girls. Seeing such a beautiful woman, Yi Chun immediately understood that she was the main character of this banquet, the Queen Mother of the West. The Queen Mother of the West was indeed a manifestation of the congenital yin qi. She was so feminine. Her aura was so noble that it made people feel ashamed of their inferiority. Naturally, they would not have any evil thoughts. Yi Chun secretly compared the Queen Mother of the West with the Nuwa he knew. He discovered that the two of them had their own merits and differences. Nuwa was the kind of beauty that was like heaven and earth. She did not go through any processing and natural beauty. On the other hand, the Queen Mother of the West had an innate, noble aura. She was so noble and elegant that any woman standing beside her would be overshadowed. After the Queen Mother of the West arrived, all the immortals went up to her and tried to befriend her. Yi Chun also heard some whispers. The Queen Mother of the West was the most beautiful woman in the world. She was the target of all men. It was said that the Eastern Emperor Tai and Emperor Jun also had the same thoughts. Unfortunately, the Queen Mother of the West did not give them any face. Of course, the most persistent of these suitors was the Queen Mother of the West and the Duke of the East. The Queen Mother of the West was the head of the female immortals, so the Duke of the East was the head of the male immortals. Dong Wanggong was Dong Hua the Great. It was said that the future sword immortal, Lu Dongbin, was just a clone of Dong Hua the Great. It was the Queen Mother of the Wests. Even in his previous life, Yi Chun had never heard of the Queen Mother of the West having an ambiguous relationship with any man. Although the mortals had always mistakenly thought that the Queen Mother of the West was the Jade Emperor's wife, it was actually a very ridiculous thing. The Queen Mother of the West and the Jade Emperor were collaborators. Moreover, the Queen Mother of the West status in the Immortals family was higher than the Jade Emperor's land. The Queen Mother of the West was the Queen Mother of the West, and the Queen Mother of the West was the Queen Mother of the West. They were not the same person. Yi Chun was no exception. He looked at the graceful Queen Mother of the West with a hint of passion in his eyes. The Queen Mother of the West was not only the innate yin qi, but also the fact that she could control the peach of immortality. She was worthy of everyone's pursuit. At this moment, the Queen Mother of the West was chatting with Emperor Jun and the Eastern Emperor Tai. In fact, the Queen Mother of the West was very afraid of the Eastern Emperor Tai and Emperor Jun. After all, the demon race had gradually risen after the Eastern Emperor Tai and Emperor Jun established the ancient heavenly court. The Queen Mother of the West and the immortals of the heavenly court were inevitably worried that the rise of the demon race would affect their interests. For some reason, the Eastern Emperor Tai and Emperor Jun kept toasting the Queen Mother of the West. Although they were drinking the best wine in the world, and with their cultivation, they could dissolve the smell of alcohol at any time if they wanted to. However, if they did so, it would seem somewhat insincere. Therefore, the Queen Mother of the West did not use her strength to dissolve the smell. Seeing this, the other immortals also came to toast the Queen Mother of the West. After all, this was the first Feast of Peaches. The Queen Mother of the West could not favor one and discriminate against the others. In the end, she could not stand the alcohol. Her pink face began to blush, and she became more charming. The Queen Mother of the West knew that she could not continue to drink. Otherwise, she would lose her composure. Therefore, she found an excuse and left. Seeing the Queen Mother of the West leave with sleepy eyes, Yi Chun had some other ideas. Therefore, Yi Chun followed her silently. He secretly left a trace of divine sense on the Queen Mother of the West. However, the Queen Mother of the West did not notice it because she was a little drunk. The other immortals did not notice that Yi Chun, a daring guy, had secretly left with the Queen Mother of the West. The Queen Mother of the West felt dizzy because of the alcohol. She remembered that she had to host the Feast of Peaches later. Therefore, she decided to go to the peach garden to rest for a while. When the guards of the peach garden saw the Queen Mother of the West, they immediately opened the door respectfully. The Queen Mother of the West said calmly, "I will rest for a while. Without my order, no one is allowed to disturb me. Do you understand?" The guards immediately knelt down to show that they understood. However, they did not notice that Yi Chun had turned into a small flying insect and landed on the Queen Mother of the West's long clothes. Then, he followed her into the peach garden. As soon as Yi Chun entered the peach garden, he felt a refreshing fragrance that directly entered his nose. This peach garden was simply like a paradise on earth. Everywhere was filled with multicolored light. There were countless peach trees in the peach garden. Those big and small peaches were filled with golden flames. It was very dazzling and warm. Inside the peach garden, strands of multicolored light bloomed. A vigorous vitality was unceasingly spreading in all directions. Not to mention the peach trees, even the ordinary plants were sparkling and translucent. They were flawless and emitted astonishing vitality. Chapter 1440. He knew about Yi Chun in the peach garden because he had seen countless natural treasures. As for the Queen Mother of the West, she seemed to be unable to hold on after entering the peach garden. His figure flashed, and he appeared in a small palace in the peach garden. There was a huge white jade bed made of 10,000-year-old warm jade in the palace. The Queen Mother of the West lay on the white jade bed drunk. She supported her head with one hand and closed her eyes. Yi Chun took the opportunity to soar into the air. Then, he sized up Shi Wangmu's extremely alluring body. Her body was round and full, and it gave off an aura that made one's mouth go dry. Her faintly discernible skin was as white as porcelain. It was shockingly white and had a luster to it. Yi Chun had seen so many women, but none of them were as feminine as the Queen Mother of the West. Suddenly, Yi Chun's heart skipped a beat. He recalled what happened in the ancestral phoenix's palace. The ancestral phoenix was too weak. Although she failed to sign the contract with him, he managed to make the ancestral phoenix fall into a trance. Could he repeat the same trick on the Queen Mother of the West this time? Although the Queen Mother of the West cultivation was still at its peak, it might be useful in her drunken state. Wealth came from danger. He would try it on her. If it didn't work, he would immediately escape. Hence, Yi Chun silently reverted to his original form. Then he took out the contract book and came within 3 feet of the Queen Mother of the West. Then he activated the power of the contract book. As expected, when the light of the contract book enveloped the Queen Mother of the West, it immediately met with intense resistance. The Queen Mother of the West instantly opened her eyes and looked at Yi Chun with a sharp gaze. Then she asked coldly, "Who are you? Why did you appear in my peach garden?" Yi Chun clenched his teeth and spat out a mouthful of essence blood on the ancient contract book. In an instant, the ancient contract book's light increased by 3 times. Under the power of the ancient contract book, the Queen Mother of the West's eyes suddenly became a little dazed. Her expression became a little dazed again. She looked at Yi Chun with a somewhat dazed gaze and asked doubtfully, "Who are you? Why do I find you somewhat familiar?" Yi Chun snickered in his heart. "First of all, we just met a moment ago, so of course you look familiar." But of course he couldn't say that. Instead, He took a step forward and gently grabbed the Queen Mother of the West's delicate fingers. As he gently caressed them, he smiled and said to her, "Did you drink too much just now? How come you don't even recognize your husband?" Shi Wangmu revealed a charming smile. She shook her head and said, "I am not drunk. I know you're my husband. I was just teasing you earlier." At this moment, Shi Wangmu was in a half-drunk and half-dazed state. Her voice was coquettish and sweet, making Yi Qin's bones melt. Therefore, Yi Qin's gaze became even more fervent, making Shi Wangmu a little shy and embarrassed. Yi Qin took the opportunity to sit on the white jade bed. He gently stretched out his hand and hugged Shi Wangmu in his arms. Shi Wangmu's beautiful eyes widened. Her teeth gently bit her red lips. Suddenly, a trace of mist appeared in her beautiful eyes. She pouted and said in an extremely wrong tone, "Husband, where have you been? Why didn't you come to see me for a long time? I was really lonely by myself." Yi Qin gently kissed Shi Wangmu's forehead. He hugged her fragrant body and felt her exquisite curves. He said gently, "Aren't I back now? It's because I missed you too much." After being kissed by Yi Qin, Shi Wangmu's neck secretly flushed. Then Yi Qin sighed and said, "Wife, do you know why I didn't come to see you so late? It's because my cultivation is too weak. The threshold of the 33 layers of heaven is too high. I can't come up at all. This time, I was brought up by someone else." After hearing this, Shi Wangmu immediately sat up straight in Yi Qin's arms. She stretched out her slender fingers and gently stroked Yi Qin's handsome cheeks. Yi Qin only felt that Shi Wangmu's fingers were cold and moist. He couldn't help but feel his heart skip a beat. Shi Wangmu rebuked Yi Qin's forehead and said, "You fool, why are you treating me like an outsider? What's there to be afraid of if your cultivation is low? I have this peach garden. Can't I help you improve your cultivation?" Yi Qin turned around and looked at the peaches that were emitting golden light outside. He asked tentatively, "Wife, can I eat these peaches?" "Of course. What's mine is yours. You can eat as much as you want." Yi Qin suddenly lowered his head and slowly moved closer to Shi Wangmu's rosy lips. "But wife, the one I want to eat the most right now is you." Then Yi Qin waved his hand and the silk canopy around the palace automatically fell down. Yi Qin and Shi Wangmu hugged each other to their heart's content. For a moment, yin and yang blended together and almost merged into one. An hour later, Shi Wangmu, who couldn't bear the punitive expedition, closed her eyes and fell asleep. At this time, she was already dripping with sweat and her skin had a pink glow. After seeing that Shi Wangmu had fallen asleep, Yi Qin slowly got up from her body. His eyes were incomparably calm. At this time, Yi Qin suddenly heard a system notification in his mind. "Congratulations! You have obtained the first drop of Shi Wangmu's blood. You have been rewarded with 1 level of chaotic sacred body and 10 million supreme great immortal stones." Yi Qin was very excited in his heart. This time, due to a free combination of factors, he had obtained the first drop of blood from the Queen Mother of the West. What he gained the most was the chaotic sacred physique, which had increased by another level. He really hoped that such a good thing would happen a few more times. Previously, when he obtained the first drop of Ancestral Phoenix's blood, his body had also increased by 1 level. Yi Qin licked his lips lightly. In that case, who would be his next target? He stood in front of the bed and looked at the Queen Mother of the West who had fallen into a deep sleep. He sighed softly and took out a silk duvet from his universe ring. He gently covered her body with it, and then quietly left the room. Now, aside from a sleeping Shi Wangmu, he was the only one left in the entire peach garden. With this, he could enjoy all the peaches as he wished. Yi Qin suppressed the excitement in his heart and carefully observed his surroundings. There were big and small peaches. The small ones were only 3,000 years old, while the big ones were 9,000 years old. There were even some that were 6,000 years old. Yi Qin's eyes shone brightly. Since he was here, he naturally had to take all the benefits. Therefore, Yi Qin quickly plucked all the 9,000-year-old peaches and stored them in his yin and yang ring. Of course, Yi Qin knew that these peaches were the most effective when eaten at the beginning. After eating a few peaches, one would have to wait 1,000 years before eating them again. Chapter 1441. However, he was not worried about this. He still had a large group of subordinates to take care of. After that, Yi Chun set his sights on the 6,000-year-old peaches of immortality. This time, he stopped after plucking less than half of them. After all, there was still a peach banquet outside. He had to leave some for them. Otherwise, it would be too conspicuous. Then Yi Chun took out a 9,000-year-old peach of immortality and ate it in big bites. As expected, the most precious peach of immortality in the world. After taking a bite, Yi Chun felt a pure energy rising in his body. After eating it, Yi Chun received a system notification. All his attributes had increased by 500 points. This was too terrifying. After Yi Chun wolfed down 5 peaches of immortality, all his attributes increased by 2,500 points. When he continued eating later, his attributes did not increase any further. Yi Chun opened his mouth and spat out the core of the peach of immortality. He touched his slightly bulging stomach and sighed with regret. As expected, if I can enjoy these peaches of immortality, won't I be able to break through to the sage realm directly? But this time I have gained quite a lot. Yi Chun turned his head and looked at Shi Wangmu, who was still unconscious. Then he revealed a smile. Perhaps she was his greatest gain this time. Furthermore, the feeling of fusing with the Western Mother Water was simply too wonderful. After all, the Western Mother Water was formed from innate yin qi. It had a great effect on fusing with the violent energy in Yi Chun's body. Therefore, Yi Chun was a little envious. He flashed and entered the palace again. He lifted the blanket and crawled in. The Queen Mother was still in a daze. When she sensed that Yi Chun was here again, she said to him half-heartedly, "Why do you still want more? I can't take it anymore." Yi Chun smiled and said, "Wife, this time, your husband will be gentler. It will be done soon." 1 hour later, Yi Chun put on his clothes and looked at Shi Wangmu, who had fainted again. Yi Chun hesitated for a moment before taking out the most beautiful piece of emerald crystal that he had obtained from the misty swamp. This piece of emerald crystal was found by the nether mantis in a top-grade immortal stone mine that contained dozens of tons of it. It was only the size of a human head. Yi Chun looked at the sleeping face of the Queen Mother of the West and thought for a while. Then, he immediately took out a knife and began to carefully carve it. Yi Chun's knife was like the work of the gods. He was very careful. Soon, this piece of top-grade jade crystal was carved into a lifelike mask. Then, Yi Chun gently placed the mask next to the Queen Mother's pillow and quietly left. The moment Yi Chun stepped out of the peach garden, a system notification entered his mind. System notification. As you have obtained the first drop of blood from the matriarch of the West, a system announcement will be made. Would you like to announce your name? Yi Chun was stunned. This was the first time the system had given him such a human-like notification. In the past, it would announce his name directly in the system announcement. Although Yi Chun didn't care about the envy and jealousy of the players, he didn't have any privacy at all. After all, it was best not to publicize such matters between men and women. More importantly, Yi Chun was now above the 33rd heaven. If the system announced Yi Chun's name directly, Yi Chun could not guarantee that none of the disciples of the super mighty would tell on him. If the super mighty in the heavenly court knew that Yi Chun had obtained the first drop of blood from the Queen Mother of the West, he would not be able to leave this place alive. Without even thinking about it, Yi Chun chose to hide his name. Suddenly, a clap of thunder sounded in the sky. Then, a system announcement appeared in the World Channel. System announcement. Congratulations to a certain mysterious player for obtaining the first drop of blood from the Queen Mother of the West in the Great Desolate World. Completing an unprecedented feat, the player is hereby rewarded with 10 million high-grade immortal stones and 500 years of cultivation. This system announcement caused countless players to fall to the ground. It was simply too shocking. Who was the Queen Mother of the West? She was the leader of all the female immortals in the world. She was a powerful existence who controlled the peach garden. Now, her first drop of blood had been stolen by a player. Was there any justice in this world? Therefore, the players instantly went into an uproar. They were all guessing who had done this. Is there any justice in this world? Is there any justice in this world? That's the Queen Mother of the West. How could her first drop of blood be stolen? What would happen to the Jade Emperor? Idiots? The Queen Mother of the West was never the Jade Emperor's woman. I'm curious, who is this daring player? Who else could it be? Think about it with your thumbs and toes. Who was the guy who stole the first drop of blood from the ancestral phoenix? That guy is so daring that he even dared to sleep with a phoenix, let alone the Queen Mother of the West. I'm sure it's him. You guys are talking about God Yi-chun, right? I also think it's him, but this is too shocking. How'd he do it? He actually stole the first drop of blood from the Queen Mother of the West. Hee hee, I hope this is really God Yi-chun's doing. He's really giving us all face. Moreover, if he can get the Queen Mother of the West, then wouldn't the peach garden become his backyard? I'm going to suck up to God Yi-chun. Who knows? Maybe he'll give me a peach if he's happy. Yi-chun was speechless when he saw these comments in the World Channel. Even though he had hidden his name, people still guessed it. The Peach Festival was not a place to stay for long. Yi-chun quickly left after bidding farewell to the primeval Lord of Heaven. Not long after he left, the Queen Mother of the West finally woke up. Her eyes were a little dazed at first. Then, she gradually sobered up. Suddenly, an extremely sharp light flashed in her eyes. She quickly lifted the blanket and looked at her body. Then, her expression changed. She remembered everything. Just now, a thief had taken advantage of her while she was drunk. She didn't know what method he used to make her lose her mind, but that bastard actually took advantage of her. The Queen Mother of the West's face flushed red with anger. She clenched her teeth tightly, wanting nothing more than to tear that bastard into pieces. She scanned the entire peach garden with her powerful divine sense. Her expression changed again, becoming very ugly. This was because she discovered that there were no 9,000-year-old peaches left in the peach garden. Even some of the 6,000-year-old peaches were missing. Damn thief, you took advantage of me and even stole my peaches. How dare you? Don't let me know who you are, or I'll make you suffer. Chapter 1442. The Queen Mother of the West sat up abruptly. Unexpectedly, she got up so violently that it affected a certain part of her body. She frowned slightly. Then, the Queen Mother of the West's face turned as red as a prawn. That damn thief. He really knows how to make trouble. Suddenly, the Queen Mother of the West turned her head and saw a lifelike emerald mask beside her pillow. She instinctively knew that it was left behind by the thief. The Queen Mother of the West grabbed the mask and was about to throw it on the ground. However, she seemed to have thought of something, and her jade-like hand, which had been raised up high, gently fell back down. She carefully touched the patterns on the emerald mask. Obviously, the carving was very meticulous. It almost matched her face perfectly. The Queen Mother of the West hesitated for a while and gently put the emerald mask on her face. Suddenly, an incomparably cool aura spread from the mask to the Queen Mother of the West's face. The expression behind the mask could not be seen clearly. After a long time, the Queen Mother of the West sighed faintly. Then, she stood up and put the emerald mask in her sleeve. With a wave of her hand, she became the unparalleled, noble, and elegant Queen Mother of the West again. At this moment, Yi-chun was crossing the void in the sky as fast as lightning. He was still riding on the Lava Dragon King. Speaking of which, the Lava Dragon King had followed him everywhere and made great contributions. Therefore, Yi-chun generously rewarded it with a 9,000-year-old peach of immortality. The Lava Dragon King was very happy. It needed the peaches of immortality very much. As long as it swallowed the peaches of immortality, the Lava Dragon King's bloodline would be purified to a higher level. Although its cultivation wouldn't increase, the Lava Dragon King's speed and fighting power would double. As for his other mount, David's deer, Yi-chun was not stingy. He tossed it a 9,000-year-old Saturn peach. For the odd beast, after swallowing the peach of immortality, its body grew bigger. It seemed to have accelerated its growth. Haha! Yichen was in high spirits. He sat on the Lava Dragon King and laughed to the sky. He had gained a lot. First, he went to listen to the heavenly Lord Yuanshi talk about the origin Tao fruit and build a sage Tao foundation in his consciousness. Then, he went to the heavenly peach banquet and accidentally took the first drop of blood from the Queen Mother of the West. He also improved his origin sacred body to the 6th level. Yi Chun turned the Qianquan ring on his finger. There were quite a lot of peaches of immortality in it, enough for his subordinates and the women in his harem. However, he did not know how the Queen Mother of the West would react when she woke up. Would she hate him to the core, or would she just go with the flow? However, Yichen wasn't very worried because Western Mother Empress definitely wouldn't publicize this matter. She could only suffer in silence. Unknowingly, Yi Chun rode the Lava Dragon King past the East Continent. In the distance, the East Continent tree covered the sky. This was where the Golden Crows lived. Every day, the sun would rise from here. He didn't expect to come here. At this moment, Yi Chun saw a golden carriage in the distance. It sped past in front of him. In that carriage, there was a golden-haired woman in a white robe. Yi Chun frowned slightly. He looked at the golden-haired woman and thought to himself, this should be the Golden Crow Goddess. Suddenly, Yi Chun remembered something from his previous life. The Golden Crow Goddess was near the East Continent and was suddenly attacked by chaotic mutants. Those chaotic mutants were the incarnations of the 3,000 chaos gods and demons. They hadn't been completely destroyed. When these chaotic mutants attacked the Golden Crow Goddess, she was severely injured. This made the 10 brothers of the Golden Crow Goddess fly into a rage. They fought with the chaotic mutants crazily. Yichen narrowed his eyes and thought for a while. The Great Lich Demon War should be starting soon. Since he had encountered it, he couldn't just stand by and watch. Therefore, he rode the Lava Dragon King and followed the Golden Crow Goddess from afar. At this moment, the surroundings of the Golden Crow Goddess carriage suddenly cracked open. It was a pitch-black crack that was hundreds of feet long. Then, a huge creature surrounded by black demonic aura rushed out of the pitch-black crack. It opened its bloody mouth and pounced on the Golden Crow Goddess. The Golden Crow Goddess was caught off guard and turned pale with fright. She felt a great sense of danger from this chaotic mutant. At this moment, she was too far away from her home. Even if her brothers came to her rescue, it would be too late. At this moment, a sudden gust of wind blew past her ear and swept up the Golden Crow Goddess' golden hair. She heard a loud boom. The chaotic mutant that was rushing towards her was actually knocked over by a barbaric staff. The Golden Crow Goddess turned her head in surprise and saw an imposing young man standing beside her. This person was wearing a phoenix-feathered purple gold crown and golden chainmail. He was wearing lotus silk cloud-walking shoes and holding a Rui Jingu Bang in his hand. He was really majestic, like a god descending to the mortal world. Yichen revealed a row of neat white teeth and smiled at the Golden Crow Goddess. "Miss, don't be afraid. With me, Yichen, here, a mere chaotic mutant can't hurt you at all." After the chaotic mutant was knocked over by Yichen's staff, it immediately got up and roared angrily. This chaotic mutant had been eyeing the Golden Crow Goddess for a long time. This time, it suddenly attacked her when she was out alone. If it could devour the Golden Crow Goddess, it could perfect the great Tao law in its body and evolve. It didn't expect to be stopped at the crucial moment. At this moment, the chaotic mutant had already rushed into the sky and roared at Yichen. "Damn ant! How dare you ruin my plans? I will tear you into pieces." After speaking, the chaotic mutant lunged at Yichen in a frenzy. Yichen laughed heartily and waved the Rui Jingu Bang to fight with him. Suddenly, there was a thunderous roar in the sky. The chaotic mutant was obviously no match for Yichen. The Rui Jingu Bang carried the power of thunder and kept smashing the chaotic mutant's body. And the purple lightning around the Rui Jingu Bang made the chaotic mutant feel very uncomfortable. The chaotic mutant felt the terror of Yichen and wanted to escape. Unfortunately, his escape route had been blocked by Yichen. The Lava Dragon King was blocking his way with a ferocious expression. Under the pincer attack of the Lava Dragon King and Yi Chun, the chaotic mutant roared unwillingly and was swallowed by the Lava Dragon King. Yi Chun carried the Rui Jingu Bang on his shoulder and smiled at the Golden Crow Goddess. "Lady, I have frightened you. Everything is fine now." Yi Chun's smile was brighter than the sun, and Yi Chun had the highest seal of the Phoenix tribe. Therefore, even though the Golden Crow tribe wasn't part of the Phoenix tribe, the Golden Crow Goddess couldn't help but have a good impression of Yi Chun. The Golden Crow Goddess's beautiful eyes blinked. She stared at Yi Chun and said, "Thank you so much. Right? Why do you have the aura of the Phoenix tribe on you?" He immediately said to the Goddess of Golden Crow, "Goddess of Golden Crow, I thank you on behalf of the Dragon Tribe. If the Dragon Tribe rises again in the future, you will be the Dragon Tribe's great benefactor. I, Yi Chun, can promise you that if the Golden Crow Tribe is in danger in the future, you can send a message to me. I, Yi Chun, will do my best to protect the bloodline of the Golden Crow Tribe." The Goddess of Golden Crow took a deep breath and said with a smile, "If someone else said this, I would not believe it. Instead, I would suspect that he has other intentions. But since it came from you, I believe it without a doubt. There is no time like the present. Coincidentally, I have a little fellow on my hands. Please take care of it for me." After saying that, the Goddess of Golden Crow turned her wrist and a golden, furry little fellow appeared in her hand. Yi Chun immediately felt a wave of heat coming towards him. He lowered his head and saw that it was a small, three-legged golden crow in the Goddess of Golden Crow's hand. This three-legged golden crow was obviously underage. It was very lively and rolled around in the Goddess of Golden Crow's hand. From time to time, it would rub its furry little head against the Goddess of Golden Crow's hand. The Goddess of Golden Crow looked at it with some reluctance. Then, she resolutely handed it over to Yi Chun with both hands. Yi Chun was also very happy to receive this small, three-legged golden crow. The three-legged golden crow was very unhappy at first. Just when it was about to resist, it suddenly felt the aura of the ancestral phoenix on Yi Chun's body. It immediately became obedient. The three-legged golden crow was very obedient and stayed on Yi Chun's shoulder. The heat emitted did not cause any harm to Yi Chun. Instead, it made him feel warm all over, as if he was next to a big heater. Seeing that the three-legged golden crow liked Yi Chun so quickly, the Goddess of Golden Crow was relieved. He bowed deeply to Yi Chun and said, "Then, Your Excellency, I'll leave everything to you." Yi Chun nodded solemnly and said, "Don't worry. This little golden crow will not be bullied by me. As long as I'm here, no one can hurt it." The Goddess of Golden Crow also nodded happily. The more she looked at Yi Chun, the more pleasing he was to the eye. Bathed in the golden sunlight, Yi Chun was even more dazzling like a god. At this moment, Yi Chun kept receiving system notifications. "Congratulations, player. The Goddess of Golden Crow's favorability towards you has increased to 70 points. Please keep up the good work." Yi Chun smiled faintly. He was very satisfied. He didn't expect that after saving the Golden Crow Goddess, he would also take in this marriage-wrecking Golden Crow. Moreover, the Goddess of Golden Crow's favorability towards him had increased to 70 points. Once the favorability reached 100 points, she would be like Xiao Longnu, obedient to him and willing to do anything for him. However, the higher the favorability, the harder it was to increase. Unless there was a plot, the favorability would stop there. Since he had obtained the Marriage Destroyer, Yi Chun would not be polite. He immediately took out the ancient contract book and signed a contract with the three-legged golden crow. Yi Chun did not feel that it was a pity to waste a slot for the three-legged golden crow. When the three-legged golden crow grew up, it would be an existence comparable to the sun. Moreover, it seemed that riding the three-legged golden crow around the world was more impressive than riding the Lava Dragon King and the Odd Beasts. At this moment, there was an explosion in the sky. The system notification once again resounded through the player's channel. System notification: Congratulations, player Yi Chun, for successfully obtaining the friendship of the goddess of Golden Crow. He has received a three-legged golden crow. Congratulations, player. When the players heard this, they were enraged. What was going on? The World Channel had just quieted down. In such a short period of time, it was flooded with messages again. Dear players, I, Ouyang Teddy, am offering a reward of 2 million immortal stones. I don't want to know how to obtain the three-legged golden crow. I just want to know how to obtain the friendship of the goddess of Golden Crow. Those who provide effective answers can increase the reward. Previous poster, stop dreaming. I want to know too. Chapter 1444. Stop arguing. Yichun is awesome. He's riding a three-legged golden crow. He's going to ride the sun everywhere. Yichun did not care about what was said in the World Channel. Yichun was extremely satisfied after obtaining more than 30 Chaos Divine Dragons and three-legged golden crows. After obtaining more than 30 Chaos Divine Dragons, he ordered the Lava Dragon King to bring them back to the Reincarnation Dynasty. With these more than 30 Chaos Divine Dragons as bait, he would definitely attract the other dragon tribes to join him. The dragon tribe was famous for their low fertility. However, this was not a problem. Yi Chun ordered the doctors in the small world to research ways to increase the dragon tribe's fertility. Now, they had a clue. After the results were out, the entire dragon tribe could reproduce on a large scale. After all, the entire dragon tribe was in his hands. By then, it would not be impossible for the entire dragon tribe to rise again. He really wanted to see how ugly the faces of those mighty people who were scheming behind the scenes would be. However, at this moment, endless black clouds suddenly surged from afar. These black clouds seemed to be born out of thin air. In an instant, they covered the entire sky. Even the light in the surroundings dimmed. It was so dark that one could not see his fingers in front of him. In these black clouds, there were countless crazy roars vibrating. There was even a trace of bloody smell. Yichun also sensed that something was wrong. Suddenly, an idea flashed through his mind. He remembered that the aura of these guys was very clear. It was exactly the same as the Chaos Divine Dragons that he had just killed. At that time, Yi Chun understood that after he killed one of the Chaos Divine Dragons, he had alarmed his companions. At this moment, using his eyes of fire and gold, Yi Chun could clearly see that there were countless figures that were thousands of feet tall in the thick black clouds. These Chaos Divine Dragons were filled with endless demonic aura. The eyes of these Chaos Divine Dragons emitted streaks of bloodthirsty and ferocious red light. They stepped on these clouds and rushed forward crazily, wanting to avenge their companions. They seemed to be certain that their companions had been killed by the Golden Crows. Therefore, they had come to fight the Golden Crows to the death. The Gold Crow goddess's face paled. She looked at Yi Chun nervously and said, "Oh no, these Chaos Xenogeneics are coming to cause trouble. What should we do?" Yi Chun looked at the panicking goddess of the Golden Crow and smiled. He comforted her and said, "Don't panic. I am here. The Golden Crows are caught off guard. If they are attacked by these creatures, they will suffer a great loss. You go back and tell them. I will stop them and buy you some time." The goddess of Gold Crow looked worried. She said, "But there are too many of them. Isn't it too dangerous for you to stay here?" Yi Chun smiled brightly at the goddess of Gold Crow and said, "I don't care so much. Since this is your problem, then it is my problem. Don't worry." After saying that, Yi Chun kept the little golden crow and waved the Rui Jingu Bang in his hand. He stood majestically in the sky, his body emitting a dazzling light. Yi Chun knew that this was a big event that he could not miss. Moreover, it was very easy for him to gain the goddess of Gold Crow's favor. He definitely could not miss it. Yi Chun knew the goddess of Gold Crow's status in the Golden Crows. If her favorability reached 100, then Yi Chun would very likely take the Golden Crows as his subordinates. At that time, Yi Chun would not only have the Dragon Tribe, Phoenix Tribe, and Qilin Tribe as his subordinates, but also the Golden Crows. No one in the entire untainted land would dare to look down on him. He would be considered to have gained a firm foothold. The goddess of Gold Crow's eyes turned red when she saw Yi Chen's determined figure. She wiped her beautiful eyes hard and did not let her tears fall. She took a deep breath and said softly, "Brother Yi Chen, I will go back to my family to report. You must hang in there. I will be back soon." After saying that, the goddess of Gold Crow looked at Yi Chen reluctantly. Then she soared into the sky and flew towards the golden crows at lightning speed. The goddess of Gold Crow had already increased her speed to the maximum. At this moment, there was a sudden clap of thunder in the sky. A system announcement sounded in the World Channel. System announcement: large-scale storyline mission, Protect the Goddess of Gold Crow, has officially begun. Due to Pangu's creation of the world, the chaotic mutants formed by the remnant thoughts of the 3,000 gods and demons are attacking the Golden Crows on a large scale in an attempt to kill the Goddess of Gold Crow. All players are requested to quickly head to the Golden Crows to protect the Goddess of Gold Crow. The system will award points based on the performance of the players in the mission. After the mission is over, the players can use the points to exchange for corresponding gifts. Those who perform outstandingly may even win the heart of the Goddess of Gold Crow. After the third system announcement, the World Channel was in an uproar. Previously, when the Dragon Tribe, Phoenix Tribe, and Qilin Tribe were at war, the players who had regrets and were unwilling to accept the outcome immediately found an opportunity. This was an excellent opportunity for them to wash away their disgrace. They definitely could not miss it. The points that they had obtained in the previous huge storyline mission were robbed by Yi Chen's subordinates. These players were extremely pained. Therefore, they rubbed their palms together and planned to show off their skills in the Protect the Goddess of Gold Crow plot mission. Some of them even planned to copy what Yi Chen did. They gathered their friends and formed an alliance. They agreed to guard the teleportation point when the time came. If they wanted to go and redeem their points, they would have to leave half of their points behind first. The opportunity is here. I can't stop it. The Goddess of Gold Crow is destined to be mine. If anyone wants to fight with me this time, I'll kill anyone who dares to stand in my way. That's right. We don't want to live under Yi Chen's shadow anymore. This is our chance to prove ourselves. Other than the Goddess of Gold Crow, I don't want anything else. Everyone, don't fight with me. In an instant, billions of players rushed to teleport to the Golden Crow tribe's territory. At this time, the Goddess of Gold Crow had returned. The Golden Crow tribe also knew about the large-scale invasion of the Chaos Mutants. Just as they were feeling troubled, billions of players descended from the sky and looked for them to accept the mission. The Golden Crow tribe was overjoyed. It would be a waste not to use these free cannon fodders. Therefore, under the command of the Golden Crow tribe, countless players brazenly charged toward the direction of the Chaos Mutants. Chapter 1445. Since every one of them wanted to perform well and earn points, the best way was to stop these chaotic mutants from entering the Golden Crow tribe's territory. Before they entered the Golden Crow tribe's territory, they would eliminate them all. Just as these players were charging towards the chaotic mutants, Yi Chen was already brandishing the Rui staff in his hand, engaging in a bloody battle with these chaotic mutants. At this moment, the Rui Jingu staff was shrouded in golden flames. In his hand, it was like a pillar that supported the heavens. He brandished it madly with a shrill sound of the wind. Every attack was accompanied by a violent gust of wind. Meanwhile, the chaotic mutants were also attacking Yi Chen in a frenzy. Their momentum was monstrous. Black clouds surged, and the surrounding mountains collapsed under the impact of the aftershocks. Although the commotion was huge, it was a pity that they couldn't break Yi Chen's defense at all. Under the might of the Rui Jingu staff, these chaotic mutants were actually forced to retreat by Yi Chen. Yi Chen's current strength was boundless. After his chaotic sacred body was upgraded to the 6th level, all his attributes had increased by 6 times. In addition, Yi Chen had eaten so many peaches in the peach garden of the Queen Mother of the West that his attributes had increased by thousands. Now, Yi Chen was like a huge human-shaped demon god. The Rui Jingu staff in his hand exuded an extremely dangerous aura. Yi Chen's body had expanded to more than 10,000 feet. It could be said that he was indomitable. The Rui Jingu staff in his hand had become as thick as a millstone. However, in Yi Chen's hand, it didn't seem thick at all. With the sound of wind and thunder, Yi Chen raised the Rui Jingu staff in his hand high and smashed it heavily on the head of a chaotic mutant. With a loud bang, this chaotic mutant was smashed to pieces by Yi Chen's Rui Jingu staff. A terrifying aura spread rapidly in all directions. The other chaotic mutants were also frightened by Yi Chen's attack. What kind of strength was this? It was terrifying to the extreme that he could smash a chaos mutant to death with a single swing of his staff. After Yi Chen killed the chaotic alien, he waved his hand and put away the corpse. These were all clones left behind by the remnant thoughts of the 3,000 chaotic gods and demons. The energy they contained was not to be underestimated. For now, he would collect their corpses and carefully study them when he returned. Yi Chen laughed maniacally. He was in a mood to kill. The Rui Jingu bang in his hand glowed with blinding light. He killed 7 of the Chaos Xenogeneics. Furthermore, Yi Chen had already used the art of traveling through clouds and summoning rain to disperse most of the black clouds. Countless bolts of lightning coiled around the Rui Jingu bang, greatly increasing its lethality. At this point, the Rui Jingu bang was already 10,000 zhang long, and it enveloped the clones of these chaos gods and devils. There were more than 30,000 of them. In just an hour, Yi Chen had killed more than 8,000 of them. This infuriated the chaotic mutants so much that they were about to go crazy. Some of the chaotic mutants were scared out of their wits by Yi Chen. They wanted to escape, but it was a pity that Yi Chen had sealed off all their paths. There was no escape at all. Just as these chaotic mutants were about to fight for their lives, Yi Chen's lips curled into a sinister smile. After such a long time, his nether manises had finally arrived. They had already completed the encirclement. At Yi Chen's command, more than 600 gigantic nether manises that were more than 9,000 zhang long appeared in the void. Behind them were more than 90,000 smaller nether manises. The moment they appeared, they surrounded the remaining chaotic mutants ferociously. After reaching over 9,000 zhang in size, the combat strength of these gigantic nether manises was extremely terrifying. Not only had their defense reached a level that made one despair, but their speed was also unpredictable. They could turn invisible at any time. These chaotic Xenogeneics were no match for them at all. Moreover, the densely packed small spirit mantises were like ants, swarming over in a frenzy. In an instant, the chaotic mutants were crawling with nether mantises. These nether mantises' mouths were extremely sharp. They constantly tore at the flesh of these chaotic mutants. The scene was filled with tragic screams. They watched as more than 20,000 chaotic mutants were torn apart by these nether mantises. Only the pale white skeletons of the chaotic mutants were left on the battlefield. However, these gigantic nether mantises with huge teeth weren't picky at all. With just a gust of wind, they swallowed their skeletons completely. At this moment, there was only one gigantic chaotic mutant that was more than 5,000 zhang in size and covered in injuries. This chaotic mutant was their leader. Seeing his subordinates being devoured alive, this chaotic mutant leader almost went crazy. Just as Yi Chen gave the order to kill the last chaos mutant, he suddenly saw a swarm of players swarming toward him from afar. He shook his head in dissatisfaction. These guys were too fast. They had rushed over to snatch the kill so quickly. Yi Chen didn't hesitate anymore. He waved his hand, and the nether mantises under him immediately turned invisible and disappeared into the void. It didn't take long for the gamers to rush over at lightning speed. They rubbed their palms and were ready to show off their skills. However, they realized that there was only one furious chaotic mutant left on the battlefield confronting Yi Chen. These players were speechless. Didn't they say that the chaotic mutants were invading en masse? Why was there only one of them? Could it be that the rest had been wiped out by Yi Chen? What's going on? Where did all the chaos Xenogeneics go? Do they not come? Or were they all killed by Yi Chen? These players looked at each other and were all dumbfounded. Originally, they were all full of confidence to show off their skills in this large-scale plot mission, and then use their points to exchange for some better divine weapons or treasures. But now there was only one of them left. What should they do? At that moment, someone suddenly growled. No matter how small a mosquito's leg is, it's still meat. Don't underestimate this chaotic mutant. If you don't want it, leave it to us. After speaking, a guild of over 200 players immediately soared into the sky and charged towards the leader of the mutants of chaos like fiends. After all, there was only one of them left. If they didn't attack, wouldn't they have made a wasted trip? You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.